Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the final stage of the virtual Tour de France. We are here in Paris. Hello, bonjour, and welcome to the final stage, stage 6 of the virtual Tour de France. And we are here in the country's capital, France, alongside me again for the ride today. It's going to be a quick one. It's going to be an iconic one, is Hannah Walker. But let's have a little look at the rankings heading into the final stage of the women's virtual Tour de France. Team Tibco Silicon Valley have the lead with 409 points, pretty much unassailable. But in the green jersey competition, it is Canyon Schramm who have 214 points ahead of Team Tibco Silicon Valley with 197. And there are lots of points on offer in that particular classification today. 6 laps with a sprint, an intermediate sprint on every single lap. Now, the polka dot jersey, that has been done and dusted on the slopes of Mont Ventoux. It is Team Tibco Silicon Valley who have taken that classification, so they can ride with that jersey with pride on the streets of the city's capital today. And the Maillot Blanc, the best young rider, well, that's on the shoulders of the Canyon Schramm squad, ahead of Drops. But again, a lot to play for. Look at that, 43 points to 40. Team 2020 also in equal second place. So lots and lots to play for today. This, of course, is a team points competition, not based on time like the traditional Tour de France. And we have had a wonderful couple of weeks racing. Hannah, I cannot wait to get this stage, or to see this stage. The women are already underway, but what a wonderful place to finish. You've ridden on the virtual streets of Paris. It's something very special, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very special, and seeing it in game, it feels just as real, as if you're there. We've got some of the biggest sprinters, the biggest names racing today in this women's race. We've got Marianne Vos, Kirsten Wild, former world champion Marta Bastianelli as well. So it really is a who's who of women's cycling, and it's going to be a fast and furious stage, that's for sure.
It certainly is. And we've got Chloe Dygart as well for Team 2020. As we just go through the classifications. That's the white jersey. But you can follow a little bit more detail as well as watching the feed. If you head to Zwift.com/raceview, you can have an in-depth view of the rider stats, where they are out on the course. So I encourage you to head over to there. You can see exactly where on the course the riders are, if it splits into groups. And you can also drill down and look at all of the individual riders' metrics and stats, which just adds that little layer of information, enhancing your enjoyment. So do head over there. I've got mine open at the moment. I know Hannah's got hers open, but this is going to be a very exciting stage. It is 6 laps of the city of Paris, of course. Traditional drag up the Champs-Élysées. We go around the Arc de Triomphe, the Place de la Concorde. It is all here. The all-important power-ups. We'll go into those in a bit more detail once we get the racing underway. But today, given the very nature of the stage, power-ups are going to be absolutely crucial. Now, Hannah, you've ridden this particular course, haven't we? Haven't you? Just give us a flavour of what it's like as we just run through the teams that we're familiar with now.
Yeah, it's quite a drag up towards the finish, as it is in real life, and you're on those cobbles. The part through the Place de la Concorde, it's got a real steep kicker, around 6%, so riders going to have to be careful on that section. However, down on the backside of the course, down the Avenue de Champs-Élysées, it's going to be very, very fast, as it is slightly downhill. Riders going to have to watch out that they don't find themselves on the wrong side of a split there, and we're going to be seeing very, very high pace today, roughly around 48-50 kilometres an hour.
Indeed, well, that is the profile today. Don't get me wrong, the Champs-Élysées isn't quite that steep. It isn't a climb. There are no climbs today, although the rather interesting profile there makes it look like it's steeper than it actually is. But we are now heading into lap 2. We've got nearly 15 minutes of racing underway. And as you can see, the field heading up the Champs-Élysées now for the second time. And you can just see Danny Christmas just on the front there, putting out some big power here. They're just coming towards the intermediate sprint. Now, they go through the finishing banner, and then about a kilometre later, as you can see, heading towards the Arc de Triomphe, there is the intermediate sprint. And it's Kessler and Christmas. Barnes is there as well. It looks as if Kessler's going to take that one. The maximum points. Danny Christmas, who was awarded the Prix Combatif yesterday, the most aggressive rider, took second place. And Alice Barnes, the current British road race champion, was up there too. And Hannah, the fact we've got a sprint every lap, the fact that Canyon Schramm and Team Tibco Silicon Valley are so evenly matched in the green jersey competition, as well as the prestige of winning this stage, means that every single team here is going to really have to think about how they play this tactically and use their resources very, very wisely.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been keeping an eye on the race view, which you mentioned before that people can look at, and it's been very, very tight already, jostling for as many points as possible between Canyon SRAM and Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank. Even the teams, and we can see, there is splits in the peloton already. Even the teams that don't want to score any points in this Maya Vert, the green jersey, they're still going to have to sprint to be, to stay at the front of the race. You just got a shot there. See how split up it is. There's 1-2 seconds between riders, and in such an early stage of the race, it can already take you out the back, and you lose your chances of taking a stage victory here.
Yep, the riders are now flying down. You are quite right there. And the riders are flying down the back side of the Champs-Élysées now. And you've had a chance to recon this course. You can just see the gentle slopes, and they're riding along. You can just see the speeds there, 53 kilometres an hour. It's Newsom on the front, Kopecky. Christine Major is also there. Now there's a few riders now coming back together again because it's been so active early on. This is an opportunity for the riders to try and recover and recuperate a little bit before they head down the tunnel, just through the Jardin des Tuileries. Absolutely beautiful Jardin des Tuileries, and background into the Place de Concorde. Well, there is confirmation. Team Tibco Silicon Valley's Nina Kessler takes the win. 10 very important points towards the green jersey competition. Alice Barnes there, the first rider for Canyon SRAM. And then importantly there, Hannah, 2 more Team Tibco Silicon Valley riders. I think what we have to say about Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank is the fact at every single classification they've got riders up there, but they're very, very consistent. They really do ride close together as a group.
Yeah, they do, and they've done their homework coming into this race. They've been practicing and doing lots of races before they came into this virtual Tour de France to really learn the platform and learn how to race on it, learn the tactics. As we're due an interview soon. But yeah, they've really been working hard at trying to. We hear from the sports director Rachel Heel.
This weekend was huge for Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank. We've been racing a lot on Zwift, really learning the skills and techniques that it takes to race on a virtual platform, which are different to racing on the road. But this is by far the biggest race to date, so to pull off a win on this stage was fantastic. The riders are racing on 3 different continents, so to be able to work together as a team the way they did, and to put the plan into action was a real testament to how hard they've been working together. Now that we have the yellow jersey, we're going to be fighting hard to keep it all the way to Paris, and if we can pull off another stage win along the way, then that will really be the icing on the cake. For the next 2 stages, for Saturday's flat stage, we're going to be looking to sprinter Nina Kessler and stand-up newbie Kristen Faulkner, who's really taken to the Zwift platform. And then for stage 4, Lauren Stevens and Leah Dixon will be our go-to riders.
Well, really interesting insight, into the fact that the team are spread all over the world. So communication in between races absolutely crucial as well. But they seem to absolutely nailed their tactics. The riders all in very good form, and we're just going through who is riding in the various jerseys today. Lauren Stevens, who already has a stage win to her name. She won stage 2 of this race. She is wearing number 1. She is in the maillot jaune. Leah Dixon, again exceptionally consistent, is wearing the polka dot jersey. And as I said, it's all about riding for Nina Kessler today, trying to get another stage win. But importantly, as we were listening to that interview, Hannah, and we're looking at Marianne Vos, 3 times world champion, the last woman to win on the Champs-Élysées. She won La Course back in 2014. She just beat Kirsten Wild into second place, and another rider who rode that edition of La Course was Julianne Dehors in second place. But Marianne Vos in this front group. But there's only 29 riders up here, and a group containing Tanya Erath, Hannah, is at 25 seconds, which is a big, big surprise.
Yeah, this is very interesting. Tanya Erath, of course, a stage winner already in this virtual Tour de France. I am quite surprised to see us actually so far back. She's in a group with some other big names as well. Leah Kirschman of Team Sunweb, Trixie Warak as well, another rider from Canyon SRAM. So and also just noticed Krista Raffel is also lost contact with the front bunch. So it seems to me that the only rider in this front group is Alice Barnes, the current British road race champion. So they're going to struggle to try and pick up points in this points classification to try and keep the green jersey within the team. With so many riders from Tibco Silicon Valley Bank in the front, they really do have the upper hand.
They certainly do. That is a big, big surprise. There's a shot of Krista Riffel, the young German rider. She wore the white jersey for a few days. Actually, she is wearing the white jersey out on the course today. They've got two jerseys to defend, the green jersey with Tanja Erath, but that is a big, big surprise. Tanja Erath has ridden so consistently, not just in this virtual Tour de France, but in Zwift racing over the last few weeks and months. So big surprise to see her in a bad position there. But I think to pick up on your point, Tanya, that you mentioned it, sorry, Tanya, Hannah, earlier on, with the fact, if you get a bad placing down the back straight, if you lose the wheels, because of the high speed, you get this real concertina effect. And I don't think Tanja Erath is kind of ill or lacking in form. I just think she was badly positioned. That seems to have been the problem.
Yeah, I think positioning on this stage is crucial. You just want to keep yourself within the top 10, top 12 riders. And as I said, ride it as if, and some of these riders might not be well equipped on the track, but I would say ride this stage as if you're riding a points race. Even if you're not going for points in the intermediate sprints, just follow those wheels, go with the move, but don't make a full gas effort. Make sure you just follow those moves so you can counter attack anything that might happen, and just to make sure you're on the right side of the splits. Yep,
44 k's an hour. Again, tactics absolutely vital. I'm so surprised how it did split up, but again, it's absolutely vital that you get yourself in the right position. The riders have had opportunities in the week to ride all of these courses. Chloe Dygart, another key rider in the mix there. Also in the mix there for Valcar Travel and Service, Elisa Balsamo. And there we have the 10 times world champion. She is the current elite time trial champion of the world. She won that title back in Yorkshire last week. She looks so focused, just holding around 300 watts there, making it look very, very easy. Of course, she's a world record holder at the 3,000 metres pursuit on the track as well. She broke that twice earlier in the year in Germany, and she desperately wants a win here. I'm not too sure if April Tacey is in this front group as well. April Tacey, of course, took out 2 stages of the race. She is in the front group. April Tacey is there, right on cue. Thank you, producer. April Tacey there, the winner of stages 4 and of stage 1, underpinning the amazing performances of the drops team here. April Tacey in good position here, but this is, although we've got a few key riders missing from this group, Hannah, there's also some very, very good riders in the mix as we head towards the next intermediate sprint. Riders dropping power-ups left, right and centre, and there's a lot more power-ups available today, isn't there?
Yeah, there's lots more today. You get 2 power-ups per lap, so you'll get a new one. As long as you've used your previous one, you'll get a new one at the finish line, finish arch, and the sprint arch. So, see a few power-ups being used currently, a draft power-up, a feather weight power-up. But the all-important power-up for today is that the aero boost. That is the chosen one, and I'm sure a few riders, if they have it already, they won't be using it at all. They'll be keeping that for the finish.
Well, it's Newsom and Barnes neck and neck. It looks like it's Newsom that just took that one. Emily Newsom from Team Tipco Silicon Valley Bank takes that against just ahead of Alice Barnes. And Danny Christmas in 3rd place, and the yellow jersey never too far away. Lauren Stevens really defending that jersey well. It's mathematically impossible that Team Tipco Silicon Valley can actually be caught in relation to the yellow jersey, but they want to dominate. They want another stage win, and I'd imagine they want to take that green jersey away from Canyon Shram. But Alice Barnes, fair play to the British road race and time trial champion. She's performing exceptionally well, but what she doesn't have is the benefit of a teammate there. Just trying to see a few other riders in the mix there, but look at that wonderful shot here of the Arc de Triomphe. It's absolutely beautiful. Just look at that. Let Paris breathe for a moment. I mean, you have to say, Hannah, that the designers here at Zwift have done something pretty special rendering. Oh, look at that. We're getting a fly through as well.
It's just,
look at that.
I'm speechless.
It's very cool.
It's wonderful, isn't it? Absolutely wonderful. I think they've done a tremendous job. And as I said, it's just so real life. I think I've said it time and time again. It's my new favourite world on Zwift.
It is. You can actually ride on this world from tomorrow. It's as part of the exploration of Zwift. You can actually have a little ride around this around Paris. It's the short 6.6 kilometre circuit. They cover it 6 times. We had a little bit of a run-in as well. We had a half a lap running before we commenced the laps. As we look at the stats again of Lauren Stevens, just sat nicely in the wheels there, getting the benefit of that slipstream. And I think we've got another interview not an interview again, it's just a little bit of a reminder about the Zwift.com race feed. If you just joined us, type that into your web browser and you can get an enhanced view on what's going on in game. Just put your laptop next to your other device that you're watching this on, and you can really drill down and have a look at the stats and also look at the composition of the group. And we do have 29 riders in that front group, and the next group on the road is actually a minute. No, actually the group has shrunk. 26 riders in that front group. Another key rider in there is Kirsten Wild. And if you're going to look at a circuit for Kirsten Wild to revel in, Hannah, it's going to be something like this, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and as we mentioned before, she was second here in 2014 in the first edition behind Marianne Vos. So she knows it well. She knows what she needs to do. She's a relatively newbie to Zwift racing, actually. She hasn't done too much. She's done a few of the group rides, and she rode on yesterday's Mont Ventoux stage. But yeah, this style of circuit really does suit her down to the ground. She's been a World Points Race champion, a World Omnium champion, Madison champion, Scratch Race champion. So this, the efforts that are required on this course, a course couldn't be made better for her.
Well, there we go. There's a shot of Tanya Erath. She's over a minute behind now in that green jersey. She's got a couple of the CCC live riders with her for company. But I think in relation to scoring any more points and getting back, I mean, there is an opportunity if there's only a small gap to chase and get back in contact. But given the high speeds and given the gap is over a minute, I think Tanya Erath is just riding for honour now. And she is a real pro, of course, a former winner of the Zwift Academy, and has really taken to riding on the road, riding at this level exceptionally well. But today, unfortunately, isn't her day. As we look at Leah Kirkman, riding for Sunweb. And what a very professional setup she's got there.
Yeah, wonderful. I think she's at their team's base over in the Netherlands. Really nice setup there. Nice outdoors, getting a bit of breeze onto your face.
Oh, there's the shot of Kirkman. She again is a little bit further down the road. This very, very high speeds now. We're nearly approaching half distance. And this is the group again, containing Kirkman and containing Tanya Erath a little bit further down the road. But up front, Christmas, very active again. Danny Christmas, I'm surprised her legs aren't aching from her efforts yesterday, because she really was aggressive, attacked on the lower slopes of Mont Ventoux. As we head towards the first group on the road, and again a lovely tracking shot down the banks of the Seine. The Champs-Élysées, arguably one of the most iconic places in cycling. Of course, started as the finish of the Tour de France. We were just talking this about before we came on air. The first ever finish of the Tour de France on the Champs-Élysées was way back in 1975, and it was Walter Godefroth of Germany who won. And last year's winner in the Tour de France was, of course, Caleb Ewan. And the last woman to win on this circuit, of course, was Marianne Vos, who sits in that front group. And again, Marianne Vos, no stranger to riding on Zwift, the multiple world champion on cyclocross, mountain biking. She can do it all, and she really has taken to Zwift so well, hasn't she, Hannah?
Yeah, she has. And she can do anything that has two wheels and she has to pedal. Let's get a little look at Leah Dixon, a rider from Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank. Another rider who has really mastered the game of Zwift and the racing aspect. She's been racing on it for a long time, and want to try and get back that green jersey to take back to the US.
That's back in the front group here, and there is the picture of Marianne Vos. Got a nice high cadence though, 102 RPM, just floating at around 230 watts. And just a reminder for any of you who may be joining us for the very first time, if you do sit on the wheel within Zwift, you do get the benefit of a draft, and our engineers have given the algorithm a little bit of a tweak, so it does feel a little bit more like real life. But again, it's quite a constant effort. It's a little bit harder than riding on the road. You do get the benefits. So the more you ride on Zwift, the more you get to understand the benefits of sitting in the wheel, where you move up. And just look at that. That's a real example, Hannah, isn't it, for Lauren Stevens, of how to float around on the wheels and save as much energy as possible. Just staying at the back where you're going to get the most draft benefit.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great example, and Lauren Stevens just shows how much time and homework she's been doing to master that ability to float within the peloton and find the real sweet spot of where's best to sit in the bunch. How many watts you need to maintain, at which points on the circuit that you actually need to make an effort, and the points on the circuit where actually you can take a little bit of a breather and hydrate yourself and conserve some energy. Marianne Vos, she just looks like she's, full gas, eyeballs out, for the whole bit of the race, part of the race. But she wants to win. She's a real racer, and she doesn't turn up to racing just to sort of to turn up. She wants to win, and that's why she's one of the most successful bike riders in the world.
She certainly is. You can see that focus in her face as we see Nina Kessler now just jumping off the back up the Champs-Élysées again. Well, it's actually Danny Christmas, should I say. Just been overtaken by Kirsten Wild. This is the front group. There we go. Reste trois tours, 3 laps to go in this race, and some more power-ups being used. A wise move to use these power-ups, even if you're sat in the wheels and you've got a power-up. If you do drop one of the aero power-ups, it makes you more aerodynamic for 15 seconds. And rather than using that to attack or sprint, Hannah, you can use that to get a bit of recovery. The same can be said for the van power-up, which gives you 50% more draft. So the tactical use of these power-ups, it's not just about using them in points of the race to attack or to get away. It's actually to aid your recovery, especially when there's so many power-ups available.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in a bunch like this, it'd be perfect if you did have the draft boost, the van. It lasts for 30 seconds as well, so one of the longest lasting power-ups, and it increases the draft effect you're experiencing currently by 50%. Any rider who has done their homework, has looked into the game, they'll know that they kind of want to try and keep the aero boost, the aero helmet power up until the finish, because you never know that these power ups are random. You never know what you're going to get. So that's the all important one for the finish. But I think just try and make it as easy as possible for yourself. These riders are riding at near threshold.
They're certainly all up the drag again. This sort of 2-3% drag up the Champs-Élysées, coming through to another sprint. It is Emily Newsom on the front. Danny Christmas moves to the front again. Danny Christmas so aggressive riding for Lotto Soudal ladies, but it's Newsom that looks like she took the win there. Again for Team TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank. They are dominating this hotspot sprints competition, or the points competition, should I say. And remember, there are points every time through the intermediate sprints for the first 10 riders, and then again on the finish line. So as well as points towards the yellow jersey competition across the finish line, there are points towards that classification. So that means there are 70 points on offer today, and the way that Team TIBCO Silicon Valley have ridden today, I think they've already overhauled Canyon SRAM in the green jersey competition. They are really dominating here.
Yeah, they really are. And I think just looking at the injection of pace there from Emily Newsom and indeed Danny Christmas, it's split the bunch. I've just seen the likes of Marianne Vos is 2 seconds off the back, Julie Leth as well, Alice Barnes, Kirsten Wild is just getting back on. She's a further second back. So you just see the damage that's being done to this peloton every lap as we go into an intermediate sprint. And, it's so much confidence as well from Team TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank being taken into this race. They're very in control of everyone and all the teams.
They certainly are. They're riding very, very consistently indeed. Of course, they took a stage win, stage 2 with Lauren Stevens, and since then they have been very, very consistent indeed. Was second yesterday with Sarah Gigante, who was wearing the yellow jersey on Mont Ventoux. She rode superbly well, but there is confirmation. Another win for Danny Christmas. She's having a great couple of days. Newsom, well, look at that. Second, third, fourth and fifth. Newsom, Kessler, Stevens and Dixon. They are stamping their authority on this race today. That will be enough points to move them well into the lead in the green jersey classification. The Maillot Vert, mega impressive stuff here. Now, I think they just want to take another stage win as well, but they are dominating.
Yeah, I mean, why stop here? I think, they want to solidify their lead in that Maillot Vert now over Canyon SRAM. They'll have seen, Alice Barnes has started to lose touch going into those intermediate sprints, so they can really put the sole rider from Canyon SRAM under pressure. As we take a look now at the in real life picture of Lotte Kopecky, the former Madison World Champion with Jolien Dora. So she's the teammate of Danny Christmas. Kopecky's one to watch for this sprint, actually, Matt. She's quite a short, stocky figure, big punch on her.
Yeah, with that kind of track craft, as you said, if she gets into the right position, times her. If she gets they all will have a power up for the sprint. That's going to be the interesting thing, saving the power up for the sprint. Or do you go early? Of course, we've got that iconic finish around the Place de Concorde, that little left, then the right. And then you have the finishing straight around 250 metres fast past that final bend. And the riders, as we said, plenty of laps in relation to there it is, the other side of the road. That is the finish. Looks absolutely wonderful. Levenez on the front, Christmas, Barnes, Double Hitchcock. There are 25 riders in this front group, including, they're all 4 riders from Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank. Lauren Stevens, Leah Dixon, Nina Kessler and Emily Newson. Alice Barnes is the sole representative, the British road race and time trial champion. She is there for Canyon SRAM in this front group. Mariana Voss is there for CCC Live. Christine Majerus is there for Bowles Dolmans. We have 3 riders from Team 2020 in the front group. Chloe Dogart, Shayna Paulus, Georgia Simmerling. Then we have Krista Doble-Hickok for rally cycling in the orange. As we look a little bit further back down, that is Tanya Erath, the current wearer of the green jersey. April Tacey is in the front for drops. Lauren Kitchen is there for FDJ. That is the figure again of Tanya Erath in a rather fetching pain cave. Lauren Kitchen is in the front group for FDJ Nouvelle Aquitaine Futuroscope in the white and blue. Suzanne Anderson is there for Sunweb. Ellen Van Dyke, very, very good rider indeed for Trek Segafredo. We have the duo from Lotto Sudal Ladies, Lotte Kopecky and Danny Christmas. Then we have Kirsten Wild for Sarazit WNT Pro Cycling. And we have Sandra Levenez from Team Arkea. So a real mix in that front group as we look a little bit further down the road. And it's not going to be Tanya Erath's day, but the consolation is that she's going to walk away from the Tour de France Virtual, Hannah, with that all-important stage win on stage 3.
Yeah, and she was delighted with that, and I'm sure she'll agree. It's one of the biggest victories of her career. It must have been an amazing feeling, to take a stage in this virtual Tour de France. She's come from the Zwift Academy. She's had some very, very good results on the road so far. But I think, just looking at the racing, there's live coverage. It's equal to the men. And it's so with it being in the Tour de France, I think it's a real big victory for her and Canyon SRAM, and yeah, I mean you can't go wrong, can you?
No, it's an important victory for them. They've really supported this Zwift platform as we just come through that tunnel there. This is the steepest part of the circuit. Look at the crowd really getting behind this front group of riders. A few dropping the featherweight power-ups at a crucial time. They're just saving a little bit of energy. When you drop the featherweight power-up, it makes you 9.5 kilograms lighter for 15 seconds. You can just see the stats there of Alison Jackson, the Canadian. And right on cue, that is her setup. Outside in the sunshine, but plenty of ventilation there. Crucial that these riders keep themselves hydrated, keep the core temperature down as well. Because when you're riding static, of course, you don't get the benefit of that breeze. Your body core temperature can rise very, very quickly. They've just gone under the Flamme Rouge and another lap is ticking by. This is going to be a superb finale. We only have 2 full laps of this circuit to go now. Difficult to call, and there are still 25 riders in this front group. Another rider I didn't mention is the current junior world road champion, Megan Jastrow for Rally. Another classy rider to look out for, Hannah.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, and a world champion, junior world champion on the track as well. So really, actually hiding away very, very nicely within this peloton. She's not doing any work at the front and sort of wasting any energy. She's keeping herself sitting very nicely. Of course, Rally have had the great expertise from Holden Comu. He's come in and given the team, both the men's and women's team, some tips of how to race on Zwift. He's a fantastic racer himself. He's level 50 on the platform, and Jastrab, another one with a great punch and a great kick on her.
Indeed, some real classy riders in this front group, and we're moving up the Champs-Élysées again. They'll take 2 laps to go and they'll roll through. This time it is Lauren Kitchen just rolling through to the front for FDJ Nouvelle Aquitaine Futuroscope. Very classy group of riders. A little bit of a van draft power-up being used there at the back. This is the American Krista Doble-Hickok. Again, she's looking like she's very much in control there. Got a fan at the back as well as a fan at the front. Good tactics there, keeping her entire body cool. A little bit of an invisibility power-up being used then. The riders get a power-up through the finish line, then they'll get another one a kilometre later through the sprint arch. So a couple of riders sort of using unwanted power-ups there. The cheeky little burrito was dropped then as well. That makes you undraftable for 10 seconds. A great power-up to use if you want to launch an attack, and that means nobody can get your wheel. But this is a nasty drag, and you've ridden this a few times. Just describe what it's like riding up this long drag of the Champs-Élysées in-game, Hannah.
I think after you've ridden the sections that are really fast, when you come up this Champs-Élysées stretch of road up towards the finish and the sprint, you can definitely feel that the road is ramping up. It might only be 2-3% in gradient, but you can definitely feel that it's you're going upwards, and it's really, you have to really keep the power down. The speed drops as well, so we can see the riders are doing 38 kilometers per hour, and also from the rolling resistance, that has an effect because you're also on cobbles, so that slows things down as well, Matt.
It certainly does. Well, in game as well, as we look at Megan Yastrab, still only 19 years of age, again a world champion on the track and on the road, and she's American time trial champion and road champion too, a real talent. And Raleigh, as you said, have got that added bit of expertise. They really have studied these courses. They've done a lot of riding and racing on Zwift, and you can just see Yastrab there. She's got that little icon on the left-hand side. That means she's using an aero power-up. A couple of riders off the back. Unfortunately, we've got news coming through that Marianne Vos, big shame, has had a mechanical and has had to step off her bike, which is a big shame. She was in the front group. I did notice she was a couple of minutes behind, and that did happen suddenly. As we just go through the sprint arch again, very close at the top. It looks as if Danny Christmas, who's just floated off the front and has an 8-second lead now. Well, this is interesting. Danny Christmas, she went early again. She's got some good form at the moment and is completely unafraid, isn't she, to take the race, Hannah, by the scruff of the neck and go on the offensive.
Yeah, she is. I mean, part of me thinks, maybe she'd be better saving her energy for the finish, because in that Maillot Vert, the green jersey classification, Lotto Soudal ladies are actually down in 13th place, and even scoring maximum points in every sprint. They're not going to claw back the points to Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank. Maybe she's just doing it to try and get rid of and put the pressure down, to try and make a few riders go out the back. She has got a teammate there, Lottie Kopecky, but yeah, wants to obviously force the pace along and split this peloton.
Well, they split this group. Christmas has been caught. They just went round the Place d'Étoile, also known as the Place Charles de Gaulle. The situation, of course, where the Arc de Triomphe is situated, designed way back in 1806 by Jean Chalgrin. But that attack by Danny Christmas, she's been caught and passed. Confirmation of the result of the intermediate sprint. 10 points for Christmas again. And again, Tibco Silicon Valley Bank. Look at that. Second, third and fourth, with Davidson of 2020 in fifth position. Well, there's no doubt about the team. Unless something drastic happens, that are going to win the green jersey competition. They've come into this stage, the final stage of the virtual Tour de France, making history, of course. We are on the Zwift platform. ASO and Zwift have come together to give us this virtual Tour de France for the very first time. It's been a magnificent 2 weeks of racing, over 6 stages. We started off in Watopia, and we've been in virtual France for the last 4 days, and it's all coming down to this. But look at Lauren Stevens. She's got her mouth closed. Is she breathing through her ears or something? Incredible things here with Lauren Stevens, making it look like she's going down the shops to get a pint of milk.
Yeah, I mean, this is incredible. Just seeing, that the way that she rides, the way that she's able to ride within herself. The same here with Leah Dixon. It's almost like, they're out for a cafe ride, but at the same time putting everyone else under a lot of pressure, putting them through a lot of pain, and the lungs are burning, and the legs, are full of lactate. Meanwhile, Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank are, just having a lot of fun.
They certainly are. They're certainly enjoying their racing. And when you're on form, racing can be enjoyable. We just see a Lauren Kitchen there, just out of the saddle. The Aussie there, got a team helper. A cheeky little koala there, a little mascot. A couple of team helpers in that room. She mops her brow, keeps the sweat from dripping down. The towel over the handlebars there. She looks good. Just flicking the pedals over pretty easily there. This group is still 25 riders strong. That little attack by Christmas just earlier on split that group in front, but on the descent, on this back straight down the Champs-Élysées, it has all come back together, and we still have those 25 riders out in front. 4 from Team Tibco Silicon Valley. The team, of course, wearing the polka dot jersey and the all-important maillot jaune. 1 representative from Canyon Stram in the form of Alice Barnes. 4 from Team 2020, Dygart, Paula Simling and Davison are also in that group. So the other American team looking very, very strong. A sole representation from Drops, and the only rider to have won 2 stages, young April Tacey. I think the other riders are going to be fearing her should this come down to a sprint. A Kitchen is there from FDJ. Sunweb have 1, Lotto Soudal have 2. So an interesting composition as we head into the final lap and a half here, heading back down towards the Jardin des Tuileries. Absolutely beautiful here. I'm loving this final stage. Exciting stuff.
Yeah, it is brilliant, isn't it? And the graphics and everything within the game is brilliant. But I'm sure, for the riders now, they've got they're in this select group of around 20 riders, and I'm sure the nerves will now be brimming. Making sure that they don't make a wrong move, making sure that they're keeping their eyes on the ball, making sure that they're watching the screen at all the different riders, their every move, and sort of thinking about where they want to start their sprint and open it up to go for the stage win today. It's all about constantly, the riders have seen the lap 5 times so far. They've had enough chances to really know exactly the point where they want to go, the point that they want to start their power up as well, which is also very important.
Exactly. That was Shayna Palace. We were just looking for the first time. That was a look at another French rider, FDJ Nouvelle Aquitaine Futuroscope. A wonderful name, Evita Music. And it will be music to the team's ears if she were to win today, but she's looking very, very good. Shayna Palace also looking good indeed. Looks very, very composed. Again, another rider who races regularly on the Zwift platform as they just come out back into the open air again. This is that steep section. We should see a few featherweight power-ups being used here just to ease the effort a little bit. A couple of lapped riders there. And the yellow jersey just to the bottom of your screen, sat in 3rd position. Lauren Stevens looking very, very good here. April Tasteley not too far away again. And we'll be coming back through the Place de la Concorde. We're going through the Place de la Concorde now. That's just on the left-hand side, not too far away from the Louvre, of course. It's so wonderful to see the detail here in Paris. It is like you're actually there as they go under the Flamme Rouge. Nearly 1 lap to go, but this is a real celebration, isn't it? About France, about Paris.
Yeah, it is. I mean, for obvious reasons, the Tour de France couldn't go ahead at its normal point. Lauren Stevens just taking on a last bit of hydration there. Unsure what it looked like. I'm unsure what it looked like. Maybe apple juice or something. Or she's chewing. So last bit of energy. But yeah, for obvious reasons, Tour de France couldn't go ahead at its normal point. But what a brilliant way to honour this fantastic race. That the women have been being given equal platform, equal same distance as the men, equal coverage, and it's been watched all over the world. And I think it, like you said, it's a real celebration of cycling.
It certainly is. We've even got the big video screens there. That's normally where the team buses are situated, just in the centre of your screen. Coming round the Place de la Concorde here, the obelisk of Luxor there as well, just on the right-hand side. And how now they've swung into the finishing straight. Another load of power-ups will be available, and they will take the bell. Just under 7 kilometres to go. This is it. This is the culmination of 2 weeks of racing over 6 stages in Watopia and in virtual France. History is being made here on the virtual Tour de France. We are coming up to 1 lap to go in the inaugural Women's Virtual Tour de France. Who is going to take out the stage? It looks as if Team Tipco Silicon Valley are going to be the outright winners for the very first time of the Virtual Tour de France. They have Lauren Stevens in the maillot jaune. They have Leah Dixon in the polka dot jersey. But the big question is, who is going to take it? Are we going to see an attack long? But we've got 1 more sprint to go, 1 more sprint towards the green jersey classification, as we can see the Arc de Triomphe, Anna, looming in the background for the very last time.
Yeah, well, it's you look at that, and it does have a slight incline, and it's a real long drag up towards that final sprint, intermediate sprint. But riders will be conserving as much energy as possible now. The likes of Chloe Dygott still in here. She's really vying for a victory today. She's come close on a few stages, and as we just get a look at the 10-time world champion, Olympic silver medalist, looking very, very comfortable, Matt.
She certainly is looking good. Very, very focused. Even riding, she's just flicking it over at the 350 watts there. And this is the rider that I think is the most dangerous. She knows how to time her sprint. She knows the exact moment to drop a power up. The timing of the power ups in group sprints, absolutely crucial. And this young lady knows how to do it again. But Danny Christmas, she has to get the award for the most combative rider again. Maybe that's what she was going for, because she's off the front with a 4-second lead. Wonderful riding by the British rider from Lotto Soudal, ladies.
Yeah, I mean this is fantastic. The riders from Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank, they're not worried about Danny Christmas taking max points in the intermediate sprint, but it does prove a bit of a threat. 5 seconds, 4 seconds now is the gap to the peloton, and if Danny Christmas continues the way she is and head down and puts all the power through the pedals, she could pose a threat if they don't get her back early.
With Danny Christmas moving at around 30 k's an hour up this long drag. Remember, it is a nasty drag. You wouldn't really call it a climb, although it is climbing. It's just a nasty drag for 2 or 3% gradient. But she's eased off on the pedals a little bit, and it looks like the group is coming back to her very, very quickly. I think it's mission accomplished, and she's been overtaken by the Maillot Jaune. Look at that, the Maillot Jaune happy to take the group through for the final time in the Place d'Étoile. Just rounding this corner in a few moments' time, the iconic Arc de Triomphe is there, and this is the very last time that these riders will have a glimpse at this iconic location. A couple of little power-ups are being used, but we still have 25 riders in at this front group, or 24 riders should I say. Kirsten Wild is the rider just sat at the back of this group, and she is a rider who knows how to perform well on this finish. There is the Arc de Triomphe, there is the view of Paris. The Tour Eiffel, the Eiffel Tower just to the right hand side, and we're going to get another wonderful little fly through. Hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen, because this is it. We're coming in to the last few kilometres of the final stage of the Tour Virtuel. Hannah, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who's your pick?
I'm going to go all out and I'm going to say Kirsten Wild. The way that she's ridden very conservatively, she's lost contact through every single intermediate sprint. I've been watching the race view, and she's got herself back on this very section, and I just think she's been saving all the energy. Big, powerful sprinter.
Well, the previous stage winners, April Tacey took out stage 1 for drops. Lauren Stevens on your screen now wearing the virtual Maillot Jaune, the yellow jersey, took out stage 2. Tanya Erath out of the mix today, unfortunately, for Canyon SRAM 1 at stage 3. Stage 4, again, was young 19-year-old sensation April Tacey from Team Drops, and stage 5 was taken yesterday on Mont Ventoux by Ashley Mormon-Passio of Team CCC Live. But the big question is, one of these 24 riders is going to take the stage. The tension is starting to build as they crack along at nearly 60 k's an hour down the back straight of the Champs-Élysées. They'll see the finish on the left-hand side in around 500 metres time. One last little loop of the Jardin des Tuileries around into the Place de la Concorde, and then the finishing straight will open up. 3.5 k's to go. There is the classification in the Maillot Vert. The green jersey competition has been signed and sealed by team at Tibco Silicon Valley. They're going to take that one home at the end of the day. They're also going to take home the Maillot Jaune, but who is going to take the stage win? This is arguably the most prestigious stage in the Tour de France. We had the Queen stage yesterday, but this one is almost like the World Championship, isn't it, Hannah, for sprinters, this one?
Yeah, it is. Every sprinter, male and female, would love to win on the Champs-Élysées. It's the real pinnacle of cycling. It's so iconic, and the women are getting a platform on Zwift here to do the virtual Tour de France. They haven't raced on the Champs-Élysées since I think 2016, so it's been a long time now. But yeah, this is the one that everyone wants to have on their palmares.
Well, let's hope in the future we can see the women on the Champs-Élysées for real. That's what cycling wants, but at the moment we've got complete and utter parity here in the virtual Tour de France. So hats off, chapeau to ASO, to Zwift for providing this race over the last couple of weeks. But it's coming down now to the last 3 kilometres. The little peloton, that little group that is left, 24 riders strong now into the Jardin des Tuileries for the very last time. They've got to go under the bridge again, then emerge the other side. That's a little potential opportunity for somebody to go long, but to hold on for 1,500 metres, 2 k's, Hannah, is going to be very, very difficult indeed. But again, if you're not a sprinter, you might as well try and go.
Yeah, I mean, you've got nothing to lose. Why don't you try something, play to your strengths? If you know you're not going to get up there in the sprint, go long. It could pay off, if all the other riders and teams stall, as we get a picture-in-picture here of Kirsten Wild, 8-time world champion. Look at the, when she wants to win and when she goes into something, she does everything to perfection. She gets very nervous before races, and you can just see, the focus and the passion on her face.
Oh, she's riding there. She's just moved up to the front. They're just using that little bit of energy to move up through the bunch. Just pushing around 300 watts, got herself into position, and then just backed off a little bit. We call this the washing machine effect as riders move through the bunch to get to the front, then back off again. Other riders come round the outside. With the Prix de la Combativité, it is Marianne Vos. She's been awarded that, but we have something bigger now. It is the finale. It is the final stage of the virtual Tour de France, stage 6. A great shot here as they go under the underpass. They will come up back into the open air. The Louvre will be just to their back to the left. They then swing left. They will head into the Place de la Concorde, and with 1,400 metres to go, it is anybody's race here, Hannah. Absolutely superb stuff, and it looks as if Lauren Stevens could be doing a big lead out here.
Yeah, this is a brilliant ride. Stevens towards the front. Lauren Kitchen also up there. As you can just see, the swamping the front is the team of Team 2020. The riders of Shayna Paulus, Chloe Dygott moving up towards the front as they see the Flamme Rouge now. 1 kilometre of racing to go on the Champs-Élysées, the final stage of the virtual Tour de France.
This has been absolutely wonderful, Hannah. It's been a pleasure commentating with you on this women's race. But as you said, the Flamme Rouge has passed. It is now they have to pass through the iconic Place de Concorde. That is the shot of Lauren Stevens in her back garden, still looking composed, still looking focused, still putting out some big power, but she's going to have to get herself in the right position. And look at this. This is the shot of April Tacey. 2 stage wins to the good for the young 19-year-old. Has she got what it takes to make it a hat-trick? 1 gentle left-hander, then the right-hander, then they will see the finishing straight on the Champs-Élysées. Another one you have to think about today is Chloe Dygott, the multiple 10 times world champion. She starts to ramp things up. The parapets are being used. The finishing straight is opening up now. 350 metres to go. Dygott opened things up. Dygott out in front at the moment. Kopecky there. Van Dijk as well. Alice Barnes is in the mix as well. This is Chloe Jackson. Dygott on the front. Power up's being used left, right and centre. It's a blanket finish at the moment. They're just heading towards the finish. Van Dijk is in the front now. Dygott in second. Van Dijk takes the lead. Stevens moves through to the front. Stevens in the yellow jersey. Stevens takes the win in yellow. You could not make it up. A story finish here for Team at TIBCO Silicon Valley. Absolutely magnificent win by the American. And what a wonderful finish. She wins the final stage of the virtual Tour de France in Le Maillot Jaune. You could not make that up. There we go. Wonderful stuff there, Hannah. The yellow jersey takes the final stage.
Well, just look at the thrill on her face. Big high five to her sports director, Rachel Hederman. Yeah, she's pleased with that one, and what an honour having the yellow jersey, the maillot jaune on your shoulders and taking a victory on the Champs-Élysées.
Well, it was April Tacey. 2 stage wins to the good. Couldn't quite make it 3, unfortunately. But Lauren Stevens takes the win. April Tacey in second place. She looks disappointed, but she's had 2 top 3 performances as well as the 2 wins, should I say. And Chloe Dygott, well, opened up perhaps her sprint a little bit early there. Hit the front. She finished in 4th position. Again at 0.32 seconds behind. Alice Jackson was just behind her. And then Alice Barnes was in 6th place. But a wonderful finish there. But all about timing at the finish. But what a way to win it. They're the dominant team, and they know how to race. She's still punching the air with delight. I mean, fair play, though. I mean, Team TIBCO Silicon Valley have taken this event exceptionally seriously, as have all the teams. But the amount of attention to detail, the repetitive riding on Zwift, and the condition they've got themselves in, well, it's served them well, hasn't it?
Yeah, it certainly has. And, you know, we've had, as we get a replay of the finish, just look at the flurry of the aero power-ups there. It was Barnes who opened up the sprint and went early, but just look at the injection of pace there from Stevens, just overhauling Barnes, the British road race champion, with around 75 metres to go. So it all, you know, everything came down to the timing of the sprint. And when you pressed the power-up, Stevens still had the power-up when she went over the line. So, you know, making the most of the most favourable power-up on this stage. Tacey coming close, though, only 700ths of a second behind, so couldn't manage to take a 3rd stage victory. But nonetheless, Stevens is thrilled with that one.
Yeah, she'll be absolutely delighted. And as you said, timed her sprint to perfection. Came round very late with about 150 metres to go with that power-up as well. And she had it for about a second past the finish before it just blinks out just now. There we go. Both Tacey and Stevens there just giving us a real example of how to use your power up. So they used it for the maximum amount of time, well, they actually had the second over. You don't want it to be on too much past the line, but there is confirmation. It is a win for Lauren Stevens in the Maillot Jaune on the Champs-Élysées from Team Tibco Silicon Valley. Second place for April Tacey of Team Drops. Simmerling there in third place. Chloe Dygart in fourth. Two riders from Team 2020 there in third and fourth. Jackson in fourth. Sixth place for Alice Barnes of Canyon SRAM. Then Ellen Van Dyke was there as well. And then we had Leah Dixon, Evita Music, the first French rider in ninth, and then Lotte Kopecky in 10th place for Lotto Soudal ladies. But look at this. Delighted she is in the shadows there, in her back garden or in the driveway. And the disappointment there for April Tacey. But when you look at Tacey, she was first on stage 1, third on stage 3, took out stage 4, and the runner-up here on the Champs-Élysées. I mean, she's got a big, bright future, hasn't she?
Yeah, a very bright future, and only 19 years of age. You know, what a way to stomp your authority into your first year as a professional rider. You know, and already taking some big scalps. You know, she might be a little bit disappointed now, but I think when she reflects on what she's achieved during this virtual Tour de France, you know, she should be very, very happy. And I'm sure, you know, maybe later on today or later on in the week, she'll realise what she's accomplished. But for the team of Tibco Silicon Valley Bank, I mean, yeah, it was just such a dominant performance, and you know, so nice to see the happiness and of the glory on the face of Lauren Stevens there for taking that victory.
Well, when you think about how many countries this race is being transmitted to, how many eyeballs are going to be on this race, on the virtual Tour de France, a lot of people kind of getting to grips with e-racing for the very, very first time. But the profile for women's racing primarily, I think, and for men's racing too, but the profile of this race, this event has given women's cycling is phenomenal. So no wonder everybody involved in these teams is absolutely delighted. And the fact, of course, it is the virtual Tour de France. History has been made as we look again at the slow motion replay of that perfectly timed run to the line by Lauren Stevens. And of course, her second stage win as well. And I think when you look at the way Stevens has ridden, I mean, in her experience out in real life as well, she's not just a climber, she's very, very versatile and has a very dangerous at the punch at the end of the stage too.
Yeah, she does, and to add to that, she's a very, very good time trialist as well. She won a stage at the Lotto Thuringen Ladies Tour back in 2017, and I think on that stage she actually beat the likes of Lisa Brennauer, Ellen Van Dyke. So, you know, she really is a very versatile rider, and she has all the attributes to be very, very good on Zwift. And as we've seen, I mean, you know, 2 stage victories, and both in very, very different ways that she's won. Obviously, her first stage victory she won, it was from a sprint, but it was only a small bunch, around 9 riders, whereas today, slightly bigger and up against some of the best out-and-out sprinters in the world.
Yeah, she was up against some real firepower. When you look at like Kirsten Wild, Chloe Dygart, there's some big power there, but she knows how to time it. And the wonderful thing for me, we've got an interview, I think, with Lauren Stevens coming up very shortly, is the fact that we've got Lauren Stevens adapting to racing on this platform at the slightly older age of 33, and then we've got the young riders coming like April Tacey at 19, obviously completely fearless and adapting to it so quickly. But it's really good to see a blend of youth and experience, different kind of riders really adapting and kind of bedding into this platform,
Stevens,
as we hear from the race winner.
You've won on the final stage of the virtual Tour de France, a sweet stage, of course, on the Champs-Élysées. What's your emotions on taking that stage victory? And Lauren, of course, your team have ridden so well over the last few weeks. I'm not hearing you, so I hope you're hearing me okay. But your team have ridden so well over the last few weeks. What was the plan for today?
Rachel Hederman Zoom.
We can hear you now, Lauren. So I hear you okay.
All right.
Let's start again. We'll start again. Talk us through your emotions on winning that stage on the final stage of the virtual Tour de France. Sorry, Lauren, we don't hear you again now. Well, we're going to try and get Lauren Stevens back, I think, because at the moment we're not hearing her too well.
Unfortunately, had a few technical problems there, but I think one of the things that you have to think about with this virtual Tour de France is the coming together of so many different factors. I mean, we're all remote, the riders are all remote, spread all over the world. The logistical kind of sewing together of this event, it's been quite marvellous. Occasionally we do get glitches. Oh, here we go. I think we might be ready. Let's have a little look. Hopefully we can speak to the race winner.
Rachel Hederman Zoom.
Okay, Rachel, thank you very much. Let's get Lauren back on the Let's have them together. There's a good idea. Let's have you both together, and we'll just chat to you quickly. First of all, Lauren, we couldn't hear you. So your emotions on winning the stage on the virtual Champs-Élysées in Paris.
Oh, it's been an incredible team race. Winning the yellow jersey as a team and winning the final stage was more than we expected coming into this first women's tour, virtual Tour de France.
What was your plan today in terms of the team working around about you to be able to unleash that final sprint?
Yeah, we came into the stage today focused on taking the green jersey. We knew we were going to keep the yellow jersey, so we made a plan to keep the green jersey. And I think a hard, controlled race is the best for our team. And that's what we did today.
Well, it was wonderful to see the way that you've all ridden over the last few weeks. You truly have shown how to ride on Zwift. Rachel, the team, you've ridden with riders across, I think, 3 different continents over the last 3 weekends. How's it been as the team director, just bringing this all together and making this happen?
It's been a lot of fun, but it's been hard work too. Trying to coordinate, if nothing else, just time zones. You know, we've had riders racing at 4 in the morning and 11 at night, but the riders all fully bought into the idea and were committed to racing. So we've made sure that we've communicated during the week leading up to the races. So we've done our planning and our preparation, and then on race day we're communicating really well with each other during the race. So I think that communication has been key.
Now, this team is one of the, in terms of sponsorship, is one of the oldest sponsors in women's cycling. I can remember from the start of the 2000s in California, the start of Team Tibco. But this is a huge stage for you, isn't it? What's it been like in terms of the reception from fans to be now the winners of the virtual Tour de France?
We've had a fantastic reception. You know, obviously like you say, the Tibco and Silicon Valley Bank have been sponsoring the team for 15 years. But this is the biggest race that we've done, the biggest stage that we've performed on. And so to be able to perform as a team on this size of stage for our sponsors has been incredible.
Well, Rachel, Lauren and all the team, thank you very much. Many congratulations. Enjoy the victory.
Thank you.
Do you know what? It's great to see people smile like that, isn't it? I mean, this means so much to them. And as you said, it's just reward, I think, Hannah, as well, isn't it, for a team that has been dedicated to women's cycling for so long.
Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant, isn't it? For the riders, for all the staff in the background that, you don't see at the forefront. Also for all those sponsors. I mean, it's a real great victory for them all. But it's fantastic. And, it's so nice to see how happy they are.
It certainly is. Well, there is confirmation. Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank from the United States with 499 points take out the inaugural women's virtual Tour de France in 2020 in the second place of 306. And drop team, a wonderful performance by the British squad, looking to move up to the next level as well off the back of their success here in third place. Wonderful. And of course, unsurprisingly, the way they've dominated proceedings over the last couple of weeks, Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank also have won Le Maillot Vert, the points competition as well, with 350 points ahead of Canyon Shram with 254, drops again up in the mix with 175. Fourth place, CCC Live with 94. So the green jersey as well to Team Tibco Silicon Valley. Wonderful performance all round. And I think as we go through the rest of the classifications, there's going to be no real surprises. They have absolutely dominated across the board, on the flat, on the climbs, And there is confirmation. We knew this heading into the final stage, that they've won the Classement Maillot à Pois, the polka dot jersey as well. The Queen of the Mountains goes to Team Tipico Silicon Valley with 69 points, drops in second place again with 51. And CCC Live, courtesy of that magnificent performance from Ashley Mulman-Passio on the climb of Mont Ventoux to Chalet Reynard yesterday in third place. So the third jersey for the American team. And the one that I'm not too sure about is the white jersey classification for the best rider under 25. Will that go to Team Tibco or will it go to somebody else? It is Canyon Schramm. So by one solitary point, Canyon Schramm take home the best young rider. Look at that, 51, 50, 49. So Canyon Schramm take the win with 51 from Drops with 50 and Team 2020 with 49. So a very, very close fought competition for the Maillot Jaune. So Canyon Schramm, they're going to be happy with that, I think. The best young rider. Disappointed, I think, with the green jersey. That was a bit of a shock today, but they take away a stage win courtesy of Tanya Erath as well. So I think Canyon will be relatively happy with that. And they've ridden on this Zwift platform for so long. And of course, Team Tibco Silicon Valley almost double the total of Canyon Schramm in relation to the team classification. So Canyon Schramm in second, Drops in third, Team 2020 in fourth, CCC Live in fifth, Sunweb sixth, Ceratizit WNT Pro Cycling Team in seventh, FDJ Nouvelle Aquitaine Futuroscope in ninth, Bols Dolmans in 10th position there. So Hannah, a quick summary before we move over to the men's racing. It's been a wonderful inaugural virtual Tour de France for the women. Some great racing, exciting stuff, and I think all augurs well for the future.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And, we've seen some new riders, new names coming through, and some existing riders. Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank, we knew they were dominant, but I've just done a bit of quick maths. They scored 153 points for the green jersey today. They came in, and with Canyon Schramm only scoring 40, I mean, it just shows the dominance. It was evident taking the stage victory, but just... I think all the riders in this female peloton and all the female teams, they've really grabbed this opportunity to race on this platform with both hands, given it their all, and they've certainly given us and the fans watching at home a ton of entertainment.
Well, I couldn't have put it better myself, Hannah. You are correct, but look at that. It has been the virtual Tour de France. It's been a pleasure to ride along with you. But next up, it's the men's. Welcome to the final stage of the virtual Tour de France. History is being made. It is the men now who take their chance on riding through Paris, up and down the iconic Champs-Élysées for stage 6. And the current situation at the top of the rankings. Alongside me again, Hannah Walker for the ride today. NTT Pro Cycling head into the final stage with 391 points ahead of Rally. That lead is actually unassailable. They also lead in the green jersey classification. More than double the total of Mitchelton Scott in second place with 100 points. CCC team in third there with 81. And NTT really have dominated the proceedings in the men's. They've had a stage win. They opened their account with a stage win from Ryan Gibbons. He'll be in the yellow jersey today, but they also lead the polka dot jersey classification. The King of the Mountains. No mountains today in Paris, unsurprisingly, but NTT have won that competition with a handsome lead over EF Education First, with the Israel Cycling Academy in third. And then moving on to the best young rider. This is a little bit closer at the top. Still all to play for today. NTT lead that with 42. Team Ineos in second with 37. And not too far behind, Groupama FDJ with 31 points. And the leading team, based upon what you've just seen, is of course NTT. And look at that. There's the riders we have today. Chris Froome, a 4 times winner of the Tour de France, looking to make history this year. We've got Sam Bennett as well, the Irish sprinter. Sylvain Dillier from AG2R Le Mondial. Watch out for some of these riders too. Rudy Barbier is good. Elia Viviani and Attila Viviani, both riding for Cofidis, would desperately love to win for the French team on the Champs-Élysées. Ryan Gibbons there could be the favourite. Edvald Boasson-Hagen for NTT as well. Cees Bol, watch out for him, the Dutch sprinter from Sunweb. And also look out for Brian Cockard, perhaps from B&B Hotels Vital Concept. He placed second on the final stage of the Tour de France on the Champs-Élysées a few years back. And this is the course that the riders face today. No, you haven't got, you don't need your eyesight testing. The climb isn't that steep. That's just a long drag up the Champs-Élysées to the hotspot sprint. and the riders already underway. They've got 7 kilometres under their wheels. They did 6 laps of the Champs-Élysées, each lap 6.6 kilometres, equating to just under 43 Ks. And here we have Radio Tour.
Pour la 6e et dernière étape du Tour de France virtuel. La course est actuellement lancée. 6 tours des Champs-Élysées à effectuer pour une distance totale de 42,8 km. 23 équipes représentées. Hello and welcome on Radio Tour for stage 6 of the virtual Tour de France, the final stage of this edition on the Champs-Élysées. The race is currently underway. 6 laps of the circuit to be covered for a total distance of 42.8 kilometers, 23 teams represented.
Well, thank you very much indeed. For the final time, Mr. Seb Piquet, the voice of Radio Tour. And this is the situation at the head of affairs. A big group still in front. And there again, the enthusiastic crowd. Obviously, we've had the Tour caravan has gone by there, Hannah, and doled out some maillot jaunes and some polka dot jerseys for the fans, which is great to see.
Yeah, it's always brilliant to get a nice little present from the side of the road, isn't it? And obviously donning the polka dot jerseys, the yellow and the maillot vert. Great to see how enthusiastic they are of this peloton. Final stage, last one, last hurrah.
It is a big last hurrah as we look at Ryan Gibbons. Again, all in their service course are NTT. Ryan Gibbons wearing the yellow jersey, the winner of the first stage, and it's at the bottom right of your screen, Zwift.com/raceview. If you click that into your browser or onto your phone, whatever device you choose, you can have an extra little look at the stats available. It gives you a side view of the finish, where the groups are on the road. It gives you an aerial view as well of the same thing, and you can drill down and look at each individual rider's stats. And that just, I think, will enhance your experience of watching this, the final stage of the first ever history-making virtual Tour de France. So just a reminder, Zwift.com/raceview. Please take a look at that, and hopefully you can get a really good insight into what is happening with the riders. And on the left-hand side, that is Rasmus Tiller. He is wearing the white jersey in-game, so he is the best young rider wearing that jersey. Just a reminder on the way the points are accumulated. There's no time on the virtual Tour de France. It's all a points-based system across all of the classifications. 50 points for the winner of the stage down to 25th, and points available on the line for the hotspot sprints and the climbs. And of course, the team with the most points across all of the classifications wins the team classification, and the team then nominate a rider to actually wear the various jerseys. So Ryan Gibbons is in the yellow jersey. Max Valscheid, a sprinter for Team NTT, he's in the polka dot jersey today. Edvald Boasson-Hagen is in the green jersey, and Rasmus Tiller in the white jersey. So they've under their wheels already, Hannah. But from the field that we've looked at, we had a bit of research at the start. Which rider do you think, or which riders should I say, stand out for you in relation to taking out the win today?
I actually think, and looking at how well they've been doing, I mean, you know, it's hard not to overlook the riders from NTT Pro Cycling. The likes of Ryan Gibbons is very, very fast. Take a look at Max Walscheid as well. Just look at, you know, he's a big, tall, rangy fella. And also Edvald Boasson-Hagen. But, you know, you also can't discount, you know, the likes of Sam Bennett or Elia Viviani. Perhaps this stage might suit them a little bit better. A bit of an outsider, maybe Emils Lipins from Trek Segafredo, the 27-year-old Latvian rider. So, you know, he's done quite a bit on Zwift. He's become accustomed to it, and, you know, I'm sure he's got his support of his team on a training camp as well.
Yep, they have ridden exceptionally well, and we're coming up to one of the intermediate sprints. So they go through the finishing line, and then in about a kilometre up the Champs-Élysées, just before we head into around, of course, the Place d'Étoile and the Arc de Triomphe, there is a hotspot sprint. They're just coming up to that now. These points go towards the intermediate sprints classification, and look at that, Luke Durbridge, Turbo they call him, scores maximum points for Mitchelton Scott, the former time trial champion of Australia. Very, very strong rider indeed, and Ryan Gibbons not too far from affairs. And what we have heard, one of the pre-race favourites, or one of the riders on paper, Hannah, that we thought would do well today, especially given a finish like this, Sam Bennett, sadly, the Irish road champion, riding for De Koning, has been dropped. But again, there's a little bit of a caveat, I think, to the De Koning quick-step riders. They are actually at altitude at the moment, but just good to see Sam on the start line and actually riding today.
Yeah, it's brilliant to have him on the start line, and, you know, it's because, you know, riders are, in lots of different places around the world. Some have a better advantage over others because of altitude and the like. But great to have him on the start line. Such a brilliant sprinter, as is having the likes of Chris Froome on the start line too.
Indeed, wonderful to have Chris Froome here. The team Ineos have got Filippo Ganna. He was a rider that we think could do very, very well indeed. Such a powerful rider. Great time trialist, of course, world pursuit champion, world pursuit record holder as well, as they now head down the back end, or the backside of the Champs-Élysées, should I say. They'll be trapping along. You can just see the speed there. Ryan Gibbons, nearly 60 kilometres an hour. And again, a rider, the South African road race champion. They are a team that are midway through a training camp as well, but have really focused on this and are dominating proceedings so far, leading every single classification. And they can't mathematically be beaten in the yellow jersey, but there's a lot of prestige riding on this stage, isn't it? As we said, it's almost like the Sprinters World Championships. We've had the Queen stage yesterday, but this is a completely different kettle of fish. But to win the inaugural virtual Tour de France Champs-Élysées stage carries an immense amount of prestige, Hannah.
Yeah, it certainly does, and all the big sprinters that you'd normally see in the Tour de France. We've got some fantastic track riders as well. Benjamin Thomas, who we just got a glimpse of there from Groupama FDJ, a former world champion. So it really suits these track riders as well. But yeah, as you said, carries such huge prestige to even just be racing on a virtual Champs-Élysées. And if you're lucky enough and fast enough and quick enough, and you get your tactics right to be able to take the stage victory today, well, it really is the icing on top of the cake.
It certainly is. There's a shot just of the racing group at the moment. Not too far behind is Chris Froome. So Chris Froome, looking good at the moment, sat midway through this group. So good to see Froome starting this race. Of course, himself a 4 times winner of the Tour de France in real life. And a big coup for Zwift. And, of course, the Tour de France to get him riding in the virtual race as well. And there is Chris Froome. Look at that. Great shot. And again, Team Ineos are in a training camp on Mount Teed as well. So I think the team are actually at altitude. So fair play to Chris Froome. Great shot of him there. Still churning out nearly 400 watts under the shade of a tree. Even got his Oakleys on as well. Looking very cool there is Chris Froome.
Yeah, looking fantastic. Got support of some teammates. Looks like Luke Rowe there, the Welshman, giving some support to his teammate. So, yeah, I mean, it's at altitude as well. But, great that he's racing here. The support of the team having a good laugh as well.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I think Luke Rowe, very popular figure, road captain for Team Ineos, but laughing that much, if he starts making Chris Froome laugh, it's going to be very difficult for Chris to get back in contact, because as we all know, laughing on the bike depletes your ability to put any power through the pedals. So perhaps they need to rethink their tactics with Team Ineos there. But no, wonderful to see Chris Froome taking the start line. And he has got a teammate out in front. Look at that, Cameron Worth, who had a few years out from professional cycling. Rode for Cannondale for a few years, is now with Team Ineos for this year. Big engine. And Ganna as well. So Ineos have got 2 key riders in this front group, which is great to see.
Yeah, they're having a very strong race. And, Ganna was one of the riders that you and I were both speaking about before the race. They could... he's very strong. He's a great pursuiter. He's a great time trialist. He's got a lot of power in his engine. Of course, he's the world record holder for the 4-kilometre individual pursuit on the track. So, this style of racing, could also suit him to be able to sustain that high power for a long period of time.
Yeah, definitely. He is a real beast. Again, he's one of the only riders, of course. I can't remember off the top of my head his record time for the individual pursuit, but it's heading towards 4 minutes. He wants to break that 4-minute barrier, which is absolutely mind-boggling. Good to see Brian Coquard in the mix here as well. There is the French rider, riding for B&B Hotels Vital Concept, powered by KTM. KTM are the bikes that they're riding, and Coquard looking good at the moment. Good to see. Not a rider that we're used to seeing on the Zwift platform, but he's a rider who knows what it's like to lose on the Champs-Élysées. A few years ago, he was actually second on the Champs-Élysées, missed out by a whisker. And I think for his French team, riding in the first ever virtual Tour de France, that would be a big coup, wouldn't it, for Coquard and his French team?
Yeah, I mean, you can just see, you know, that the team have come into this, taking it very seriously. They've got the camera crew in the back as well. But Cockard, you know, he's not to be underestimated. In my opinion, he's like a little whippet. You know, he's very small in stature, but very, very quick. And, you know, if he can remain in this front group, definitely could be one to watch with his small stature.
Indeed, real punchy. A very, very good track rider as well as Brian Cockard rides the 6 days in through the winter. So he's got a lot of top end as they head up the Champs-Élysées one more time. These laps are going down very, very quickly. 16.3 under the wheels, 26.6 kilometres still to go in this, the final stage of the virtual Tour de France. History being made. Look at that, a wonderful shot as this front group now makes their way up the Champs-Élysées. And you've had a few rides on this circuit, haven't you, Hannah? Just describe what it's like actually riding up the Champs-Élysées on these cobbles, because in game they've actually increased the kind of roller resistance, because riding on cobbles is a bit harder, isn't it? So as well as the drag that they're riding up, the cobbles just make it that little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I think when you're looking at the shot now and when you're looking at the course, it doesn't look like that you're actually going up a gradient, but you know it's ever so slight. It's only around 2-3% of a gradient, but you know after 6 laps, it certainly starts to take its toll on your legs. When you get to the top of the Arc de Triomphe and you come back on yourself down the Avenue de Champs-Élysées, it's a very, very quick section. Just get a little look of a stage winner from stage 3, Matteo Dalcin. It's a very quick section, and riders we saw in the women's race, you might get caught out on that because of how, the speeds. You don't want to be on the wrong side of the split. You want to keep yourself within the top 12 to 15 riders within this peloton. Make use of the drafting effect, but certainly don't make sure that you're not on the front wasting energy. Make sure you're not too far back to get caught out.
Indeed. Well, here they are heading up the drag again. Despite the drag, despite the gradient, they are moving very, very quickly. Look at all the power-ups being used. There are 2 opportunities to gain power-ups on the circuit, once through the finishing line and once through this arch here. And of course, Mitchelton Scott are the only team that can overhaul NTT in the points classification, but it's Gus Van Hook who goes to the lead. Emils Lipins is in second place. Janssens in third. A couple of lap riders going by. So an interesting little manoeuvre there. Lipins in first, Van Hook in second, and Jimmy Janssens from Alpecin in third. And Ryan Gibbons up there as well, scoring a few points. It didn't look like Mitchelton Scott scored too many points, but I think their tactic at the start was at least to try, and that's good because Mitchelton Scott have ridden very well so far. They've had a couple of top 3 placings on stages. Nick Schultz was third on stage 1, and Nick Schultz again was second on stage 4. So they've been very consistent. But again, today, although it's going to be fast and you've got to ride at threshold, what you've got to do as well, Hannah, is cope with these power spikes as well, because those sprints are clearly quite crucial. So it's going to be very, very tough, isn't it, to actually adapt and actually recover from those sprints.
Yeah, it is, and it's all about riding it, following the wheels. You might not want to be going for the sprints to score any points for your team, but making sure that you stay in with the flow of the race. But the constant injection of pace and the efforts needed to be able to stay with the front, it does start to take its toll. Mitchelton Scott have been scoring points in these intermediate sprints. That's the first time they haven't scored. They've only got Durbridge and Eduardo Affini. As we hear from Ryan Gibbons, stage 1 winner.
Prior to this, we spent a lot of time on Zwift, being forced indoors. So every single rider's been doing a lot of Zwift work. We've had team workouts, group races. So everyone kind of knows the platform really, really well, knows how to race, and is super motivated. So it's really a great opportunity to show that. And again, we've communicated well and had strategy at every race, and it's proved. Leading in most categories, obviously we want to continue with that success. We've had a great showing thus far, and we definitely want to end the weekend on a high. Final 2 stages, obviously Saturday stage being Nelson Mandela Day, which is a very special day and an important day for us. The team has in the past had success on that day, so we're definitely aiming to do well on Saturday and then bring it home in the Champs-Élysées. So hopefully we can keep all jerseys.
Well, Ryan Gibbons there, obviously just explaining how important it is to NTT to perform well in this virtual Tour de France. And Gibbons has ridden very well himself. He started the year off with a bang by taking out the South African road title, of course, but is now in at the yellow jersey. And as Hannah said, won stage 1 of this race. They haven't won any other stages, as we look at Ryan Gibbons there, just making it look very, very easy, holding around 400 watts. Again, it's a very, very hard effort. All of his teammates are around him, and the full lineup for NTT Pro Cycling today: Ryan Gibbons in yellow, Max Valscheid in the polka dot jersey, and Rasmus Tiller in the white jersey of best young rider. And then we have Edvald Bosenhagen, the Norwegian powerhouse, in the green jersey. As they head back down again, Filippo Ganna. He did a little bit of a cheeky attack there, Hannah, just coming down at the back straight there. Ganna, I think, used that descent and used his kind of weight and his raw power. That could be a good opportunity or a good place for a rider like him to just try and go clear.
Yeah, it could, even just now he might just be, testing the water, testing the legs, seeing, if that tactic works. We just see him, Filippo Ganna, the world record holder for the 4 kilometre individual pursuit, taking to the out the saddle style of riding, trying to get as much power out as possible. But, it's also try things, see how it works, see how the other riders react to you. Still 22 kilometres of racing left to go, but looking exceptionally comfortable, Matt.
But look at that. I mean, he's hardly even got a change of facial expression, and he's holding around 400 watts. And then anybody who rides Zwift, anybody who's got an understanding of power and the effort that it takes to generate those sorts of watts, of course, in cycling, a measure of the power that is produced, just shows how strong he is, just shows how good these riders are. And another rider from Team Ineos in the front group, the Australian, again, had a couple of years doing triathlon after a few years at World Tour level. And now, because of his ability to ride, he's just got a big engine. And what Ineos use on many occasions, of course, controlling the peloton, are riders with a very big engine who are able to sit on the front and churn out the watts. And Cameron Worth and Filippo Ganna, 2 protagonists, 2 exponents of that particular art. As we head just underneath the bridge again, they'll emerge here, as we saw in the women's race. This is a key point on the circuit. It's the steepest little climb. It's only short, but a good opportunity to get rid of a featherweight power-up if you have it. And the featherweight power-up makes you 9.5 kilograms lighter. And in this front group, Hannah, just been drilling down, having a look at how many riders are in this front group. Already the field has been cut in half, basically. We had 22 teams, 88 riders started, but only 35 riders now in this front group.
Yeah, I mean, there's some notable names not in this front group, but, the likes of Brian Cockard has made it in here, Benjamin Thomas, Emils Lipins as well, also our, Stage 3 winner, Matteo Delsin of Rally. So there's a real mix of riders in here. All 4 riders from NTT Pro Cycling are in this front split. But as you were talking about going under the tunnel just before, you go into it and it's very fast, but it's quite steep coming out, around 6-7% of a gradient. So certainly, with around a kilometre and a half to go until the finish line, a place that could catch riders out.
It certainly could, as we look at Jimmy Janssens, just trapping along there at around 400 watts, got a very clean pain cave there. Oh, look at that, very good positioning there, tactically, right underneath the air conditioning unit. Phenomenal placement of the bicycle and laptop there. And again, with a semi-shaved head as well, it's going to be very cool. So I haven't seen any riders under an air conditioning unit, so hats off, literally hats off to Jimmy Janssens for his positioning there as they move up the Champs-Élysées again. You can just see the crowd there waving just into the standing area, the seating area, as we have another look at Janssens there, just tapping away, looking very strong. And Alpecin Phoenix have ridden very well. They've got 4 riders on the start line today: Roy Jans, Loris Roulier, Jimmy Janssens and Jonas Rijkaard. And it is Wieland now moving to the front. That's the rider from EF Pro Cycling. Of course, they'll be buoyed, won't they, of course, EF Pro Cycling. You've got a couple of riders in that front group at least, Hannah. I mean, that magnificent victory by Mike Rusty Woods yesterday will have really kind of lifted their confidence. Not that they needed confidence lifting, but it would, again, put them on a good footing for today.
Yeah, it certainly did, and Rigoberto Urán had a very good ride as well. But I think the success breeds success, and I think after seeing the way that Mike Woods rode yesterday, it's very inspiring. You want to continue that, continue the success. They've brought a very good team here. Simon Clark, Jonas Rutsch, Moreno Hofland, a very quick sprinter, and James Wieland, young rider from Australia. So he's been placing very well in the previous stages of this virtual tour, and you can just see the very distinct jersey, the pink and purple EF jersey within the front of this peloton.
I do like that jersey. And a Rafa jersey. It is one of my favourite jerseys out there. Always sort of breaking new ground in relation to their riders as a team. Always embracing different elements of the sport. Our EF, and performing very, very well here. They got 3 riders in the front group, in fact. A couple of featherweight power-ups being used. And if that's the power-up you've got on a drag like this, well, it makes you 9.5 kgs lighter. But Rijkaard goes for it again. Rijkaard and Janssens, both the riders from Alpecin Phoenix. Now they sit, well, they're not in the top 3, but again, happy to get in the mix there. And Ryan Gibbons dominating today. I wonder what the tactic is going to be from NTT today. Although they're leading all of the classifications, they've only actually won one stage, which still isn't bad. But when you look at the composition of their team, Hannah, Ryan Gibbons, a great sprinter, Max Balscheid, a great sprinter, Edvald Boasson Hagen, they've almost got too much talent in relation to sprinting. But clearly, they're going to have a game plan. We don't know what it is, but they've got a lot of talented depth there, haven't they?
Yeah, huge talent. But they're riding, on the offensive. They're constantly picking up points in this intermediate sprint, keeping towards the front of the peloton, just watching out and being aware that this peloton could split, making sure they're on the right side of it. And I think the tactic will be, there'll be no lead outs. We won't be seeing any lead outs today. It'll be, all riders go for that sprint to the finish, and I don't think they'll mind who takes a victory if they can. As long as one of them can. I mean, it's been a real team effort throughout, all 6 stages over the last 3 weekends. Every rider that's been in the NTT Pro Cycling team has played their part, and just patrol the front of the peloton, I'd say, and open it up for that sprint.
Indeed, great shot there of Brian Cockard again. He's got a couple of teammates in there. At least he's got Kevin Redsa himself, a very, very good rider, very strong all-rounder. Rode for FDJ for a few years and now moved across to B&B Hotels Vital Concept, powered by KTM, to give them their full name, and that is the classification so far, the positions in the green jersey. The Classement Maillot Vert, NTT Pro Cycling dominating that, almost double the points of Mitchelton Scott. And considering we're at over half distance now, there's no way, given the points on offer, that can be taken back. But Janssens took maximum points there ahead of Ryan Gibbons, Rijkaard Amarell of Groupama FDJ, and then EF. It's a German rider, Jonas Rutsch, in 5th place there. So again, dominating the green, and the positions at the front, still around 33 riders in this front group. No attacks just yet, but to attack off this sort of speed, 60 k's an hour as they head into the Jardin du Tuileries, this beautiful part of Paris. It's so difficult, isn't it? So I think the riders here just using the benefit of that draft, saving as much energy for the finish. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point wasting your energy, wasting your legs, and risking, losing contact with this front bunch that if you tried to attack, it's far too fast. I mean, you'd have to be going exceptionally quicker than what the peloton is travelling at to even just, get a couple of bike lengths. So as you say, make the most of the draft effect. Sitting nice and comfortably. Jonas Rijkaard looking, very comfortable indeed. And save it all for the sprint at the end.
Well, another rider that I've noticed in the mix there who is a big sprinter. I think it's the only rider from Bahrain McLaren that I can spot. You can just see him centre of your picture there with the red shoulders, black shorts and the orange back with those flashes of blue. He's just riding in about 10th position now. The 26-year-old has already taken a win on the road this year, won 2 stages and the overall of the Saudi Tour, and is a very, very fast finisher indeed. Won a stage of the Criterium du Dauphiné a few years ago, and is touted as being the next big sprinter. Germany, of course, having such a rich history of big sprinters. But Bauhaus doing well to be in that front group. He's got no teammates with him, but he's clearly adapted and has grappled very, very well with sitting in the slipstream and riding at that kind of solid tempo.
Yeah, and I think, for the Phil Bauhaus of Bahrain McLaren, he doesn't have to do anything. He's not having to worry to go for the intermediate sprints. He can just focus, all his attention on that finish. He's a big, powerful rider, and just try something at the finish. I would say, try and get to that finish line, and a big sprint on the Champs-Élysées.
Indeed. That would be a big victory for Barry McLaren. Barry McLaren haven't won a stage of this race. I'll just go through the stage winners as we look at Jonas Rutsch just going through the tunnel again. Then it kicks out. Then they swing left. Cameron Worth, Odd Christian Eiking, another rider we've not mentioned. He's riding there for Circus Wanty Goubert. A very, very good climber. The rider you picked out earlier on, Hannah, Emils Liepins, the Latvian rider for Trek Segafredo. Trek Segafredo have two riders in the mix. Koen de Court, the veteran Koen de Court, the Dutchman, spends a lot of his time in Australia. I did one of my recon rides with Koen de Court, a very, very popular figure. He's had a top 10 already. And again, one of those riders, given a little bit of leeway, could go long, has that kind of horsepower to maybe pull off a bit of a surprise. But there we go, the Flamme Rouge. But yeah, I think a bit of a dark horse is Koen de Court, because again, a rider of such experience too.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's ridden 8 Tour de France's in real life. You know, he knows, this Champs-Élysées, like the back of his hand. I think on stage 3, when he got that top 10 result, he did open up his sprint very, very early. And, I think he will have learnt from that. He knows that, maybe he needs to leave it a little bit later, and also when to time pressing his power up. Because he did have the all-important aero on stage 3, so if he can try and get that again, it's practice makes perfect, doesn't it? And it's that experience that pays off in the end.
Indeed, we're just passing through the Place de la Concorde and again heading into the finishing straight. 13 laps, hopefully not 13 laps, 13.5 kilometres to go. That's 2 laps of this circuit. And still around 34 riders in this front group, and even though they're up the drag here, there's still 47 k's an hour, some big numbers being put out. Everybody hovering at around 4.5 to 5 watts a kilo. And Luke Durbridge, look at the positioning of Luke Durbridge there. We talk about the draft effect in Zwift. The position that he's placed in will give him the most benefit. We've seen him racing a lot on Zwift. Mitchelton Scott have done quite a lot of community events on Zwift too. So he, again, one of the real top-end pros who's really adapted to riding and knows how to do it. Right at the back is where he's going to get the most benefit from riding in this pack, isn't it, Hannah?
Yeah, and he's got a teammate just rubbing shoulders with him as well, the Italian rider Edoardo Affini. So, both of them, of course, done their homework, know that, sitting at the back of this peloton, because as you can see, it's very, very reduced to what we started with at the start of the race. But just making the most of this draft effect. It's like saves around 20 to 30% of your energy. Just see Jonas Sutterlin, Max Watts, 1,349 across all 5 stages so far. So mightily impressive statistics here.
Yeah, Josh Sutherland, a very, very powerful rider. Rode for Mobistar for a bit, come over to Sunweb. That is some very, very lofty stats there in terms of generating raw power. But here we go. We've got another intermediate sprint towards the Mayo Vale. There's still an honour, there's still prestige in winning these sprints out on the road, although the classification is done and dusted. NTT will take home the green jersey, but there's still a lot of action at the top. Benjamin Thomas now goes to the front. Jonas Rutsch from EF, not too far away. Again, a couple of power-ups being used here, coming towards this sprint. A lot of riders have opened it up very, very long indeed. Gus Van Hook, Janssens is there too. The couple of riders from Alpecin Phoenix there. And look at this, the great collage effect, the picture-in-picture perfect. Absolutely beautiful stuff. Benjamin Thomas takes, Gus Van Hook, takes the sprint there. So Gus Van Hook riding for CCC team takes maximum points across the line. And we'll get confirmation of the positions there as they head back into the Arc de Triomphe. The Arc de Triomphe designed way back in 1806. But those history buffs out there by Jean Chalgrin, and sits in the Place de Charles de Gaulle, which is also known as the Place d'Etoile, as we look at Gus Van Hook opting for no jersey there.
Yeah, well, you just saw in the picture the damage that Gus Van Hook did to the peloton, and this is what I was talking about before. If you find yourself on the wrong side of a split, but you just look at the riders at the back, how much they are chasing, how much more energy they're having to exert just to get back on terms at the front of this peloton. The length of this peloton around 50 metres now. Just see Brian Cockard, the Olympic silver medalist from London 2012, just rocking his shoulders a little bit. He still looks very, very focused, but starting to look a little bit more uncomfortable than he did earlier. Keeping a nice cadence.
Certainly, it was looking pretty good. But as you said, you could just the kind of effort, the perceived effort there, that the kind of body language was quite telling. It's starting to bite now. The riding at sort of 350, 400 watts for over half an hour is going to start to hurt. It's certainly maintainable, but not for quite a lot of riders. A lot of riders clearly could not keep up with the pace. Or a few, of course, were riding at altitude, but one rider that is looking very good, holding 400 watts down the back straight of the Champs-Élysées, is Filippo Ganna from Team Ineos. He really is a powerhouse, but only 23 years of age, 76 kgs, so a real lot of horsepower. Won a stage of the Bink Bank Tour last year, third in the World Road TT Championships last year as well. And he's been up there in the, well, he's a current Italian time trial champion, so a real specialist against the clock. And a little shot of Rasmus Tiller there, keeping hydrated here. It's good to see, isn't it, the kind of setup that NTT have got as we head over to Matteo Del Sin. Now, this is a rider, isn't it? It's worth mentioning this rider. Already taken out a sprint, and he is a real dark horse. Not a pure sprinter, but really knows Zwift inside and out, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you can just see in the background of his garage the wattage beluga. You know, obviously that's telling something about him. But yeah, he won the sprint on stage 3 in very, very fine form. As you said, not an out-and-out sprinter, but certainly got the speed and the knowledge to race on Zwift. Rally, another team who've put in a lot of work coming into this racing. They've worked with Holden Comu, who's an experienced Zwifter, done a lot of racing and very, very successful. And so he's been sharing his tips with the both the men's and women's team, and that has paid off. And Matteo Del Sin, to be honest, I think after his first stage victory, I don't think he could believe it. But he's mixing it up in this front group now on the final stage on the Champs-Élysées. With some of the riders that have ridden the Tour de France in real life.
It is absolutely wonderful to see as we look at the lead group, and there is the 4 riders from NTT, the team leading the general classification. They cannot be caught in the general classification. They've amassed over the previous 5 stages an enormous 391 points, rallied the American squad with a stage win as well, remember, 219 points, and then EF, courtesy of that magnificent win by Rusty Woods yesterday in 3rd place with 175. But of course there is still the prestige of winning for the very first time, and in the process making history of winning on the Champs-Élysées in the first ever virtual Tour de France. So much prestige here, just over a lap and a bit to go. Morin on the front. This is an interesting front group. It's a mix of rouleurs, sprinters, a few little climbers in the mix. But it's riders, I think, you've got to be able to suffer, haven't you? You've got to be able to ride at a pace separate to kind of road racing is extremely uncomfortable. Quite often the pure sprinters, although road racing isn't easy at all, they're used to kind of sitting in the slipstream, being used to being looked after and shepherded by other riders. But here, you just have to make a bit more of a consistent effort throughout the stage, throughout the race itself.
Yeah, well, I think you took the word that I was looking for. This type of racing, it's uncomfortable. And, it's that ability to make yourself go so deep, but then dig a bit deeper and sustain yourself in the red. You'll see, many times that riders, that they're able to get, their highest heart rate that they've ever recorded racing on Zwift. But it's also being able to maintain such high powers as well, whilst also recovering from all the different efforts throughout the race. But it is very hard, and it's just being able to make yourself suffer and push your body to its limits and beyond.
It certainly is. Well, Bruno Amaral has just gone off the front. The rider for Groupama FDJ, but it looks like he's been brought back to heel very, very quickly. That was a very short tenure out in front. One of the riders there being lapped, that was Shane Archibald. The Flying Mullet being caught on this circuit, but it is great to see Deconic Quickstep starting, although they're at an altitude training camp. But we're coming in now just to the approach to the bell lap. This is the lead group. We have around, I think it's 33 riders in this front group. Jonas Reichardt takes the front. Brian Cockard is there. Edvald Boasson-Hagen. This is Bruno Amaral, the Frenchman. Got a great parasol there, keeping himself nice and cool. So good riding by the rider from Groupama FDJ. A real mixed bag here coming onto the Champs-Élysées for the final time, or the next and the penultimate time, should I say. Who is going to take out this, the first time we've ever finished a virtual stage of the Tour de France on the Champs-Élysées. And worth mentioning, as we get the bell here, Hannah, the engineers in game have done a wonderful piece of work turning this around in very quick time, because this is so super realistic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and when I did my recon a few days ago, it just feels like you're riding in the streets of Paris. Wherever you look, whether you're looking at the cafes on the side or looking at all the architecture and the buildings, it's so real life, and they've done a wonderful job to bring this to the fans and to us, for us to enjoy. Just chapeau to them, and well done for bringing this to everyone.
It is indeed. Well, NTT have dominated proceedings so far. They are wearing all of the jerseys. They've got the yellow on the shoulders of Ryan Gibbons, the winner, of course, of stage one. Centre of your screen, you can just see the polka dots and the yellow jersey. Well, I've got three pictures there. A rather smiling, chirpy-looking Brian Cockard churning away 369 watts. I don't know whether he's smiling or he's kind of grinning in agony. I'm not too sure. But meanwhile, Edvald Bosenhagen churning up 450 watts in Lucca. That is the service course of NTT. We are into the last lap. And again, Hannah, I'm sorry, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who are you going to call? Not Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call? Sorry.
Well, this is a real tricky one, because there's a number of riders in here, but I'm going to have to go for maybe someone we might not have thought about. Well, we have thought about, but maybe not one that would normally win on the Champs-Élysées. I want to go Koen de Kort.
Okay, Koen de Kort, that is a good one. Dimitri Clay is there from Cofidis. The Belgian rider riding for the French team is the only rider from Cofidis in the front. Bruno Amaral, the attacker, just a few kilometres ago for Groupama FDJ. It doesn't look as if there's a real, just by the shape of the group there, Hannah, it doesn't suggest to me that there's a real kind of interest in sprinting for that last intermediate sprint. Because if you put the power down now with only 5Ks to go and open things up, you're going to ruin it. You're going to dig a little bit too deep into your reserves, flood your body with lactic acid, which isn't exactly what you want. As we look at this group now, Jimmy Jansen's coming into the final Place de la Toile for the very last time.
Yeah, I think the riders, they know that the Maillot Vert classification is already, a done deal on the shoulders of NTT Pro Cycling. So, all the riders are now just concentrating all their efforts on that finish line. There's no point exerting yourself and putting in an effort that you'll need in 4.7 kilometers time. What a wonderful shot, Matt! Straight through the Arc de Triomphe.
It is absolutely great. It gets me every single time. Look at that, a little flyby, or fly-through, should I say, underneath the arch, designed in 1806 by Jean Chalgrin. And we are now deep into the final lap. We're on the back straight of the Champs-Élysées. This is the final stage of the virtual Tour de France. History is being made, and history will be made once more, because for the very first time we shall have a victor on the virtual Champs-Élysées, should I say. That is the Pointe, the arch. We're going further down, and they will see on their left-hand side the finish. They've been through there previously on 6 occasions. There's confirmation again of the last intermediate sprint of the day. Janssens takes that for Alpecin-Phoenix. Rally's Zukowski takes second place. Brian Cockard in third. Clark in fifth place there for EF Pro Cycling. And EF Pro Cycling in that pink kit have 3 riders, Hannah, in this front group. They've got Simon Clark, a great all-rounder, Jonas Rutsch and James Whelan. Jimmy Whelan, as you look at that wonderful mosaic of all of the faces that we have here on the final stage.
Yeah, well, it's great seeing all the different ways how these riders, some opting to be constantly out of the saddle. Luke Durbridge just wanting to push all the power down, sitting in the saddle, not even holding onto the bar, still able to push 315 watts, but travelling at 60 kilometres per hour. I mean, this is really ramping up. And Luke Durbridge, he wins today's Prix de la Combatif. So that's chosen by the public.
Indeed, so yeah, the current Australia time trial champion, multiple time trial champion of Australia in the past, takes that one, but making it look easy. And this sort of effort, second nature to him. He's a great track rider as well, multiple medalist on the track, previous world champion on the track as well. There is the finish, just stretching back into the distance now. They've got one more lap of the Jardin du Tuileries, this beautiful garden that was actually made in 1664 and then was made a public park after the French Revolution. But today we see a different sort of revolution, a revolution in esports, a revolution in the Tour de France, because this is the virtual Tour de France. It is the final stage. We're in Paris, and we have some of the finest sprinters in the world who are going to battle it out for victory here. And the team, well, in pole position in every single classification there. It looks like almost the entire staff there smiling because they know they're going to take home the yellow jersey. There's Doug Ryder, arms folded. They dearly love to win this final stage as well. But which one do you pick? Do you pick Eddie Boss, Edvald Boasson-Hagen, Ryan Gibbons or Max Waltscheid? As we look at Matteo Delsin, the wattage beluga. Can he drop a secondary beluga to take out his second stage win? 2.1 to go, Hannah.
Who's your pick for today then? Who are you going to go for? Who do you think is going to take the victory?
I was hoping he wasn't going to ask me that. I'm going to go long. I'm going to go for Filippo Ganna, going with a K to go and just dropping some serious watts and just riding everybody off his wheel.
Wouldn't that be nice to see a solo victory on the Champs-Élysées? Usually we're very used to seeing a big bunch sprint, aren't we?
We certainly are. Yeah, solo victories on the Champs-Élysées are a rarity, but they're just going down this little dip under the through the tunnel very, very shortly indeed. There's a couple of lapped riders that they'll just go by in a minute. There's the lap riders, that group just merging. They'll just go through those and they'll get spat out the other side. Then they will rise up into the open air again. I wouldn't imagine the riders are going to want to use their power-ups now, but there's an attack. It looks like one of the riders from FDJ, Benjamin Thomas, 10 watts a kilo, opens up a little bit of a gap. Of course, Bruno Amaral is there. He'll back off and try and block, but Thomas has gone long. Benjamin Thomas is a classy bike rider. He is the time trial champion of France, but Amaral has closed him down. It's absolutely remarkable scenes here in France. Two French riders leading just as they go under the Flamme Rouge, and Hannah, they've managed to open up a bit of a gap.
Well, this is sensational, isn't it? Two riders from the same team of Groupama FDJ, two French riders. I mean, this would be special if either of those could get the win on home soil, on the Champs-Élysées, the iconic streets of Paris. Can they hold on? They've got a 1 second gap, but it's Edvald Boasson-Hagen, the rider, chasing them down now, Matt. 700 metres to go.
This is absolutely fantastic. FDJ placed riders 1 and 2, Amaral and Benjamin Thomas. Rutsch goes on the front, the German here. This is the picture of the FDJ rider. They've got two riders out in front. They're just going to swing through the Place de la Concorde, then they will veer to the right. This is Thomas putting out just under 500 watts. Is it enough? It looks like Coquard opens things up. Brian Coquard and Edvald Boasson-Hagen. Simon Clark isn't too far away too. The finish 250 metres away now. 61 k's an hour. Edvald Boasson-Hagen, the Norwegian powerhouse, but it's got no power up. The power up has gone. It is Gibbons. Gibbons in yellow. Gibbons in yellow. Looks if it's going to take his second stage, but it's close. It's so close. Oh, on the line. Will Clark. Will Clark takes the win, I think, for Trek Segafredo. Well, absolutely wonderful win there from Will Clark, taking the win in at the death. What a wonderful finish that was on this, the final stage of the virtual Tour de France. Hannah, that was breathless.
That was unbelievable. I mean, so much action in such a short space of time. And just look at the pain on Edvald Boasson-Hagen's face. I mean, a bit of a shake of the head from Ryan Gibbons, but here it is. William Clark of Trek Segafredo, the rider from Australia. I don't know if that's a smile or a grimace, but nonetheless looks very happy with that victory.
He does indeed. Well, that's the second stage win for Trek Segafredo. Julian Bernard took out stage 2. I've never heard my voice go quite as high pitched as that before, Hannah, so apologies if any glasses were broken in anybody's household. So, yes, 35 years of age is Will Clark, the stage winner a few years back in the Tour Down Under, but the biggest win in his virtual career, and 2 stage wins for Trek Segafredo. But that was a very early sprint there by Ryan Gibbons. But Clark, perfectly timed sprint to the line, and there it is. He takes the win. Ganna it was in second place, so not a bad call from me. Chapeau to me on that little one. But look at that. Will Clark at the top of the rankings on this stage 6. The Champs-Élysées takes the win. An important victory for Trek Segafredo. Team Ineos, Filippo Ganna using that horsepower to good effect. Devastating effect for second place. Ryan Gibbons had to be satisfied with third. Rasmus Tiller in fourth. Matteo Delsin, also a previous stage winner, in fifth. Max Waltscheid in sixth. Another rider for NTT up in the mix. Simon Clark there for EF in seventh. Stokowski for Rally. And then Edvald Boasson-Hagen in ninth. And Gus Van Hoek of CCC rounding out the top 10. And here it is. This is the final sprint in slow motion. It was Edvald Boasson-Hagen who went long, but look at that, straight over the top was Ryan Gibbons. But using that power up, it was just the last 20 metres that Will Clark had the aero power up, and it was absolutely perfect timing by the Australian. Just talk us through this again, Hannah.
Yeah, well, you saw that Bosenhagen had a power up and it finished very, very early. So it just shows, how much of a difference it makes. See the speed of Will Clark as he overtakes Ryan Gibbons in the final 10 metres. He had that all-important aero power up. Gibbons with the draft power up, and just able to overhaul him on the finish line to deny him a second stage victory. But very close indeed. Brian Cockard, the rider who opened things up from the bottom corner going on to the Champs-Élysées, but very, very early effort indeed from him. But I think, Bosenhagen, he did try to follow the lead of Cockard, and he certainly played against him in the closing 200 metres.
Well, it certainly did. It was an exciting finish. A real audacious little move by the two riders from FDJ as well. That was very, very exciting indeed. Thomas and Amiral going clear, then being overhauled on the line. Cockard did open things up very, very early, but Will Clark, of course, back-to-back wins really for Australia in the Tour de France. Of course, last year's IRL in real life Champs-Élysées stage was taken, of course, by Caleb Ewan, and now it is his countryman Will Clark who takes the win in the virtual Tour de France. That really was breathless stuff. Excitement all the way. The way that he timed his sprint. Look, I think that was a little bit of champagne there, Hannah. We're back in picture. A bit of champagne there for Edvald Bosenhagen, but they deserve it. It's been a wonderful 2 weeks of racing. Of course, had racing every weekend at NTT. Fair play to them. Have really embraced the virtual Tour de France, haven't they? So well-deserved winners.
Yeah, it is a well-deserved win, and they've run away with all four jerseys on their shoulders. And it's not just the riders who've really got behind them, but you can see all the staff, the background staff, the soigneurs, the mechanics, general managers in the background giving them full support. And it means a lot to riders as we get a replay of the finish there. Look at the gap that Ryan Gibbons opened and closed down in the final at the death by Will Clark. But nonetheless, riding, in the Tour de France is the most famous bike race in the world. You've got the yellow jersey on your shoulders. You can't be too disappointed.
Not at all. Leading into the finish, I thought we were going to have both riders in yellow. Of course, Lauren Stevens won the women's event in the yellow jersey, and Ryan Gibbons has to be happy with third place. But they've got a stage win, and they've won pretty much every single classification is going to be NTT. We'll get confirmation when we do our wrap-up. We'll look at all the various classifications, but there are all of the riders winding down. You just see Elia Viviani there, the European Champions jersey. It wasn't to be his day, but we've had a stellar lineup here. And when you reflect back on the last couple of weeks, what have been the standout moments for you over the last couple of weeks of this first ever virtual Tour de France?
I think for me, how close the racing's been. We've seen some close photo finishes. It was so close between Julien Bernard and Freddie Ovett. Freddie Ovett finally was able to take his own stage victory a week later. But I just think the way that the teams have all embraced this racing and how they've all come together. I mean, just look at the support here and the effort from Ryan Gibbons. I mean, it's just wonderful to see, and it's something the staff aren't ever able to get so close to the riders during a bike race. They're usually in a convoy, and I just think that they've played a huge part, and everyone's embraced it, and it's been fantastic entertainment.
It has. It's been entertaining. It's brought together the pro scene when, ordinarily we'd be on the roads of France, wouldn't be racing. Hopefully we'll get an in real life Tour de France in September. Fingers crossed that does go ahead. But this has been a real celebration of everything good about the Tour de France, and importantly, of course, for the very first time we've brought parity between the men's and women's scene. We've had wonderful racing, same distance, same parcours, same profile as well, and a real celebration on this virtual platform as Zwift. And I think it just shows how far we can take e-racing as well, because the pros have really adapted to it. And I think fair play when you look at the objectives of the pros for later in the year, the fact that they're aiming to peak in real life, and the way they've actually got stuck in to the racing here over the last couple of weeks has been really good, and a testament to their professionalism as well.
Yeah, it certainly has, and the way that the riders, we've had some young up and coming riders like the likes of April Tacey, only 19 years of age, up against Lauren Stevens, who's 33. So I think the way that it's able to be raced, it doesn't make a difference whether you've been a pro for 10 years or 1 year, and I think the parity that Zwift and ASO have given us is tremendous, and I'm looking forward to the future.
Well, thank you, Hannah. But there it is. Look at that, a lovely round number, almost double the total. NTT Pro Cycling are the winners of the inaugural men's Tour de France, the virtual Tour de France, with 500 points ahead of Rally. So Rally maintained their second place, but Trek Segafredo, because of that win by Will Clark, have moved on to the podium, usurping EF Pro Cycling, who moved down to fourth. But NTT Pro Cycling really dominating proceedings, and as we'll see in the next couple of minutes, the other classifications with the best young rider, the polka dot jersey and the green jersey, and best team, all the classifications that you would see in real life as well. But NTT have absolutely bossed it, and they've brought the A team to every single race, Hannah, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, and as I said before, it's been a huge team effort for everyone. They've fielded the riders which suit each parcours. All the sprinters in the sprint stages, the climbers for the climbing stages, and they've fully attacked it, and come in with a solid tactic and game plan. And they've obviously done their homework. They've done all their group rides on Zwift as well. Oh, this is great. We can hear from Doug Ryder of NTT Pro Cycling.
Doug Ryder, good afternoon. A very warm welcome as the team owner of NTT. What a wonderful performance by your riders over the last 6 stages. You've got a little bit of Prosecco or champagne there. What does it mean to you as a team to bring home the win in the first ever virtual Tour de France?
Yeah, thank you, Ant. I mean, it is brilliant. This is an amazing opportunity for us to engage in a platform that's uniquely different, and I think it's here to stay for sure, this platform. But yeah, to win the first virtual Tour de France is exceptional for our team. We've put a lot of effort into this. NTT has put, and the race center has put a lot of effort into showing all the analytics and the data that you can see on screen, which is, kind of brings the fan base closer to the riders than ever. And I think for the ASO to put this event on, and for Zwift to have such an amazing platform, this is definitely here to stay, and we're super excited to have won this first virtual Tour de France for sure.
Well, we've loved watching you. It's been you can see how the team has come together. You've all been together screaming at the riders and doing that. But, there's a lot of pain across the world right now, and I think your team has brought a great load of entertainment. Have you felt that from the fans over the last 3 weeks?
Absolutely. I mean, this just to be able to connect with people and the fan base in a different way, and use technology and platforms like this to engage with people and give them hope. Our team races to provide hope and opportunities to so many kids and communities around South Africa, and then for us to be able to engage with them, with a fan base, is absolutely brilliant. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and long may it last.
And finally, the team, obviously, you want to get back out on the road now, but a little celebration tonight before you get out there and start racing?
Absolutely. I mean, if you saw today, our riders came back from a 6-hour ride on our training camp here in Tuscany, and they all wanted to support the final 4 in this final, virtual stage of the Tour de France. And so it just shows our unity and the way this team has come together. You really look forward to pinning numbers on our jerseys and going out there and racing the real Tour de France and other races, and getting closer to our fan base again. So yeah, this was a great way to end a time where everybody's been suffering, and we look forward to being out on the open road.
Doug, wonderful to talk to you. Always a pleasure. Congratulations to you and Team NTT Pro Cycling for the win in the virtual Tour de France.
Cheers.
Great to hear there from Doug Ryder. And that was a really important kind of mention. We call it mention entity all the time. They're the title sponsor of the squad, but they do provide all the data and metrics for the Tour de France. So a very important partnership. And obviously, even more important that they perform really well. But here's the next classification. And that should be the Maillot Vert. Sorry, that's the stage classification, just confirmation of the win there. Second win for Trek Segafredo. That's Will Clark, just ahead of Filippo Ganna. Ryan Gibbons in third, another podium spot for the rider from NTT. Rasmus Tiller, then Matteo Delsin, another former stage winner of this race. He took out stage 3. Max Valscheid up there as well. Simon Clark, good performance by the Australian in 7th position. Then we had Nicholas Zukowski of Rally, Edvald Bersenhagen, and then Gus Van Hook of CCC. And we've got an interview coming up here. This should be Mr. Will Clark, the Aussie who took out this stage with that scintillating sprint, causing me to nearly, well, I did hear a lot of dogs barking in my neighbourhood. I think my pitch was so high, it was almost, it was almost like a dog whistle. But there we go. Here's Will Clark.
Will Clark, the winner of the final stage of the virtual Tour de France. Talk us through that run-in. It looked like you ignited a power-up just with a few 100 metres to go. How tough was that final effort?
Yeah, I guess the last week I sort of went too early in the sprint, and I figured out how far I went too early last week, and made sure this week that I timed it right. But yeah, it was still hard to pass everyone. I came from a long way back.
You certainly did. You came from a long way back, but Trek Segafredo have done really well in this race, haven't they? With Julian winning and you winning, it's been a big team effort, I guess.
Yeah, like Julian, started it off really well, and after that, the goal was try and finish up there in the classification, and also trying to win one more stage. So 2 wins is it's a good result for the team, I think.
And finally, we're looking forward to seeing all you guys back out on the road very, very soon. But how much of on Zwift as a physical effort is this compared to a training session out on the road or a race? It does look physically really hard.
Yeah, it is really hard. Basically I had to do 400 watts for an hour, and then sprint at the end. So, but it's also a lot of spikes and surges. Sometimes you're pushing over 500 or 600 watts to try and not get dropped, because half the thing is to try and stay far enough to the front that you don't get dropped. So yeah, that's a trick, I think.
Well, thank you very much. It's been wonderful to see you race, and well done on winning the first ever finish on the Champs-Élysées in a virtual Tour de France. Congratulations, Will.
Thank you. Yeah, it was good fun. Thanks.
Well, I wouldn't call good fun running at 400 watts and having to sprint. I don't think my body would be capable of it, Hannah. But no, that was a really interesting insight from Will Clark there, just giving you a kind of an indication of the workload that it takes to race on Zwift. You have to be a good bike rider out in real life, but it takes a little bit of adapting to. And it is almost like a time trial effort with these spikes and the sprint at the end. But there we go. Back onto the green jersey now. It is NTT, unsurprisingly, who have taken out the green jersey classification. The Maillot Vert, as it is known in France, 293 points ahead of Alpecin Phoenix, who did very well to overhaul Mitchelton Scott for second position. They were very active in the sprint today. The intermediate sprint out on the Champs-Élysées, and Mitchelton Scott in third with 140 points. CCC team also up in the mix there with 111. Then we have Trek Segafredo in fifth place. Those points, of course, that Will Clark got across the line today, counting towards that improved position for the American team. Now, NTT Pro Cycling have also taken the Maillot à Pois, the polka dot jersey. That was sorted out yesterday. There are 2 riders in the top 3 on Mont Ventoux. Pozzovivo and Mainkeys were up there, but 62 points to 30 means that they take out their 3rd classification of the inaugural edition of the virtual Tour de France. So polka dots as well in the stable. Looks like polka dots and yellow socks on that avatar there. We'll have to have a little look at the design there. Should be polka dot socks, really. But again, as they've got all of the jerseys, they technically could have an avatar with every single colour on, couldn't they, Hannah? There you go.
Yeah,
let's move on to
sort out the style.
They do. Maybe next year we'll get some different styles. But the white jersey classification as well, it was close going into the final stage. But NTT Pro Cycling with 51 points have taken out the Maillot Jaune as well, the best rider under 25 years of age, ahead of Ineos with 47 points and Groupama FDJ with 38. And there's some consistencies there because they've got the yellow socks on that one as well. So there we go, the white jersey classification. And it will come as no surprise that they have won the team classification as well. And that's basically all of the other classifications amalgamated in that for the team classification. And that should be the one that comes up next, I would imagine. And there we go, NTT Pro Cycling with 900, a huge point score of 923 points ahead of Rally Cycling with 398. And it was quite closely packed for the next positions on the podium. Rally with 398, the American squad, Trek Sigafredo with 360 and EF Pro Cycling. So South Africa, America, and then we have Belgium in the 5th place with Alpecin Phoenix. Mitchelton Scott of Australia there in 6th place. Well, we're going to have a bit of a highlights reel here, Hannah. We're going to move into that, look at the best bits of this first ever virtual Tour de France. But before we go into that, before we wrap things up, just a last few words from you, because it's been a wonderful couple of weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been fantastic to see some racing, to see the efforts from the riders and the teams. I mean, this is the biggest sporting event in the world. It's now become virtual, and you know, it really hasn't disappointed riders, teams and fans. We've really truly been spoilt, and it's been a pleasure to commentate on.
Well, thank you very much, Hannah. It's been a pleasure. We finished in Paris, the iconic setting for the finale. 4 times winner Chris Froome was there. Coquard gave it the beans all the way to the line, but it was indeed Will Clark. NTT, of course, emerged victors of the inaugural Tour de France. The final stage taken by Will Clark of Trek Sigafredo. But for now, we've got to go. From me, Matt Stevens, and from Hannah Walker in Paris, it's goodbye. Stay safe and ride on.